Press start.
All right, let's start this episode 155.
Yeah, we're supposed to start early.
Well, we kind of are, technically. Technically, we're
Little
starting
bit.
early. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. wants to follow the rules over here.
Yeah.
I want to follow the rules.
You know, that's train derailment 1001 this week, according to the transportation secretary. Thanks, Derek, for derailing us so quickly. But anyway, I'm Tim. I'm here with Dan. Welcome.
Hello.
Derek's
New
here.
guy.
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
Kanye was right.
And
Nope. God
I
damn
beat
it.
Derek.
God damn
I
it.
beat Derek to it.
God
Kyle.
damn it.
Howdy.
Hitler was right.
Jesus.
No, no.
God.
Ow.
Wow.
I gotta go. See you.
Yeah, Dan's out. Dan's like, I actually have an audience on my Twitch channel. I can't be fraternizing
Yeah, but
with you
but
guys.
they all hate me and they've never met me. So
I mean, can you blame them though? Can you
They met
blame
you.
them though? Can you?
Oh, yeah.
Just can you blame them?
Kyle goes, they've met you.
To clarify, I just mean Kanye was right when he said that Beyonce had a better music video.
Oh god.
That's what. Yeah, I'm talking about
You
that.
know what? That's
Oh.
no, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's our fault. We didn't let you finish.
Yeah, you get.
Oh wow, gosh, this is just an
That's on
onion
us.
of a joke.
That's
This is more Kanye than I've ever talked about literally in my entire life.
Yeah, like why
Like, we're
are
on
we
minute
talking about
13 of Kanye talk.
I don't
and
know
I'm
how we
like,
landed on him.
I kind of want to kill myself a little bit.
Here we
but...
are. Oh, don't do that.
just
Don't do
put
that.
the mask on?
Just quit a social media
Just put the
platform. It's the same
Just...
thing.
Nice
All right,
call.
guys. We're gonna kick things off with a little family night game of Hangman. All right. So let me share my screen.
Oh, that's cute.
Have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. It'd be a good time. All right. Here we go. So I came up with a couple phrases that are related to our podcast and/or video gaming in general.
I
And
think we've
we'll just
done this game before.
I don't think I have. Maybe you guys did on the show, but on the,
I thought it was like you and I did it, like when it was Fathers of the Grind. But
you know, we might have back in
Yeah, I
those
think we
days, but
did.
it's not as fun with one or two people, right? So so
So
I
speaking of
picked out a
Hangman,
bunch of phrases. Yep.
When's Kanye gonna just, you know?
Oh no,
No,
Dan.
we
Dan.
moved on.
We're done. We're
This
moving
is
on.
2023. This is the new us.
I mean, that dude sucks. Am I right?
That's right, Derek. New us,
Yeah,
new
man.
Kanye. I don't know what to say about anything anymore. All right, let's
Sorry,
jump
Dad.
right in. We'll go reverse alphabetical. So that's Kyle. That starts with you. Pick a letter for our first phrase, and listeners, it is a
So it's a phrase
Or-
from a game.
four-word
E.
phrase. It or related to our show.
E as in Edward.
All right, we got an E. We're safe so far. Jeffrey.
Edward.
Can I guess what it is?
I
No, 'cause
guess.
we all lose.
I know what it is
We'll
too.
lose if you.
Oh,
I
you
know
do?
what it-
Okay, then I'll
yeah.
wait. T.
T. All right, Derek.
That was what I was gonna pick. H.
All right, Dan.
L.
All right.
Does everyone know what it is?
Yes.
Yes.
Say it.
The Last of Us. I think Jeff may have caught it first, but the second after he caught it, I caught
Yeah.
it. So
And by the way, it's so what it did was I put a whole bunch of phrases in, and it's throwing these at me in random order. So I actually am not.
Oh,
gonna
Oh, that's cool.
share
That's cool.
Until we get
Okay.
He
All
looks
right,
really
so-
happy to survive that hangman.
That was The Last of Us. This one is a two-word phrase with 5 letters and then 7 letters.
And they're not. I don't know if you can tell us this or you want to leave us in suspense. Are they all titles or are they some of them
Nope.
phrases?
Now,
They're
some
not
of them
all
are related
titles.
to like us, our podcast, and whatever. So, so who did the last one?
Kyle went
whoever-
first last time.
Yeah, I went first.
All right. So whoever went last time, the next person, just go ahead and go. Give us a letter.
Oh, that's me then. Okay. S.
Uh huh. We got an S. You say B or D?
T.
Oh, T. You said neither of those. Okay. Dan.
N.
Oh, you said that a little too harshly.
All right.
I'm not comfortable with that.
You didn't like the way he said.
Jesus.
Oh my
That was very negative.
We might need to restart this episode. This is,
I know. Yeah, it's not
Like
good.
that Louis C.K. when he's like, don't say the N word. You're putting the word in my head. You say the word.
all right, so we've gotten 3 of these letters so
man.
far are in this phrase. Kyle.
I.
Yep. Jeff.
This might not be something I'm. E.
No
Damn.
E.
Job.
Derek?
Yeah, good job, asshole.
Job,
The hanging's
asshole.
beginning.
R.
Stop breaking the law.
There's no
asshole.
R.
Oh God.
Dan?
C.
Oh, of course. I know what it is. I'm an
There's
idiot.
no C. Kyle?
All right.
Idiot.
I don't know
Come
what
on,
it is, so I'm
Kyle,
gonna
take
guess,
this
and then you can guess what it is, Jeff.
right.
Yeah, it's gonna
Ugh.
we're
A.
about to lose.
Yes. Final
Bro.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, that makes
Nice.
Final
so mad.
Fantasy.
That makes me so mad.
Nice.
Hooray! Dan just lost a lot of followers, even more than he lost with the Kanye comment. So,
Yeah.
I hate myself. I hate myself.
just kidding.
Dan's
right.
followers are trash.
All right, this next one is also
Secondary.
They're very
So-
nice.
it's a two-word phrase. Both of these have 7 letters. Derek, we start with you this time.
Let's just go S.
No S. Dan.
Wow.
Well, then it doesn't exist. Then it's not a word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? T.
T. There's 2 T's.
Titties.
Kyle. It's just that word twice.
I don't know what this would be. M. Mary. M.
No
Oof.
M. Jeffrey.
Oof.
Got 2 T's to begin each word so far.
R.
You say R.
As in R, you go into the mall later. That's what I'm at.
There's
Okay,
several
good.
malls.
Oh, thank goodness.
Derek.
A.
This is interesting.
I don't know what this is.
Oh wow, it's not the same word. Okay. Oh wait, I see now. Okay.
They might have put this one in wrong now that I'm looking at it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Looks weird. But go ahead. Dan, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's right.
L. No.
What are you trying to kill us?
Kyle.
Why? I don't know.
Oh,
Try hard tracker.
Try hard tracker.
the
Yeah.
Try Hard
Try Hard
Tracker.
Tracker.
I forgot I put this one in there.
Oh, that's good.
Self-promoting there, huh? A little self.
Yes.
Little Try Hard. Look how happy the
It's,
Try Hard is.
yeah,
I
right?
know.
Happy.
Well, he did get choked
Eventually-
out, so I mean, he
Yeah.
has a good reason to be
Yeah.
semi-happy.
All right, let's do at least one
that's
more.
Gonna be a
Let's
staple
do at least
of the
one more. We
podcast.
can do more different time. Let's do at least one more here. We got a 3-word phrase, 5 letters, 7 letters, 5 letters, and then we'll start with Dan because I think Derek.
I know what it is already. We'll let it go a little bit, but I
All right.
think I know what it is.
Dan, go ahead. Kick us off.
Okay. T.
Yep.
All right, I know what it is.
Yeah.
What is
I
it?
know what it is. Can I say it? Trash, garbage, trash.
That's right.
Trash.
Oh yeah.
I thought that's what the
Garbage
last
trash.
one was, so I was already like on it.
All right, that was
So
too
when
easy.
when I
Gotta do-
counted the
gotta do
letters, I
one.
was like, yeah, great.
Okay, we'll do one more, and then I promise we'll move on. We got a lot of games to talk about. 5 letters, 4 letters, and 5 letters. Last one, Jeff. You kick us off since Kyle got that one.
S is in
Okay.
Samuel. All right.
Got it. That's one S on the
Simulate.
last word. Derek.
T.
1 T in the first word. Dan.
S and the T's.
A.
Couple of A's, first and second word. Kyle.
E.
Yep. Couple of E's.
Oh, of course.
Jeffrey.
Beta.
Metal Gear Square.
So close. You just lost all the money though.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear Solid for this.
Well, I
last
really
one.
wanted that first word to be betas, but whatever.
Beta.
It's like
Sorry.
it's
Beta.
like one of those.
Cuck. Betas.
God.
It's like whenever the Wheel of Fortune answer is so freaking obvious, and then like the guy, whoever's guessing, gets
Oh
like
man, when
the
he
last
mispronounced it
words
and lost all
slightly
that
wrong.
money.
Yeah.
Dude.
One time, I think it
That
was a
was rough.
Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. They missed one letter. Like it was supposed to be plural, and they messed it up. And Pat Sajak had to be like, "Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. Like I can't give that to you. You didn't say it. You didn't say it completely." And the guy was like,
South
"Are
Park.
you kidding me?"
Yeah, it's like
That-
this isn't
that one
Family
episode of
Feud,
South
buddy.
Park.
This is literally a game about letters. Like you have
it's
to
about
get it right.
accuracy. Like
Yeah. Yep. All right, well, let's get into some stuff that we are playing outside of Hangman. Obviously, let's add that to the list, everybody.
And World.
But I want to kick things off with a game that I actually didn't expect to talk about this week because it is in early access for folks who got the deluxe edition with Like a Dragon Ishin. Do I have to I have to yell it.
Yeah,
right,
you
when
have
I
to
say
get
that?
excited.
Yeah,
Like
it is
a
an
dragon.
exclamation point, yeah.
Ishin!
Okay. I think I can just yell Ishin or Ishin, however you say that, but I don't have to yell the whole thing. I think it's just that word.
No, you have to be like depressed when you say like a dragon.
Like a dragon.
And
Ishin!
like a dragon. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Thank
That's
you.
canon. That's canon,
Thank you.
everybody.
That's the most involvement I'm going to have in this because it's a very interesting looking game. It looks awesome, but a couple of you are playing it. I know that this series, and Kyle, you can tell us more about it, like how it's connected to the series, but some of you are super fans, especially Kyle, of this series. So tell me about this game. You got early access to it.
This is Kyle's Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Hear
I'm
it,
like, well, Harry Potter's been my Harry Potter game, to be honest, but
No, I mean in terms of like I was already a fan.
fan, like pre-existing
Yeah,
fandom. Yeah,
This is
that
my
makes sense.
obsession, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm like 6.5 hours in. I really spent my day playing.
Okay, motherfucker.
What?
That's ridiculous.
What do you mean?
The game just came out.
I know,
6.5 hours.
I took the day off, man.
Derek's like, Ishin.
Oh,
yeah, Ishin. There's a bunch of Ishin.
All right, so
Anyways,
give me the elevator pitch real quick before you talk about.
Man, the elevator
how
pitches
does
is
this
that
connect
like you're
with the
taking a
series?
lot of familiar faces and character models from like the Yakuza series,
Okay.
and they're kind of personalities in a way,
Okay.
and you're bringing them over and repainting them into this like samurai story. It's like takes place in 1867. So like it's kind of like the samurai days are still around. It's not like it is the waning days. There's a lot of ronin and stuff like that, and it all plays into the story of like these fiefdoms and stuff like that are kind of like being oppressed by the the greater empire. And like so you as a character, and all those characters are like mix-max now, so maybe like bad guys are now allies, like in terms of like their faces, in terms of your
nice.
relatability to previous series.
So you're actually recognizing character models.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like again, and their personalities are kind of intact as well. They just may be on like a different side of things this time. And the story
Harry
is
Potter?
like Harry Potter, absolutely.
Okay,
No.
gotcha.
thanks for joining.
Yeah,
No, we're talking about-
it's
we're talking about
a
Ishin.
revenge story, without
The
like going into like kind of what happens in the beginning, because the beginning is kind of it's a big pop of a story, and I don't want to give away anything that goes on, but it's a real big drama like these Yakuza games always are. The combat I'm really enjoying. It's Yakuza combat, so if it hasn't been wowing you or even entertaining you at all, until now, that's not going to change.
So it's not like the Like a Dragon game we got a couple years ago.
No.
Turn-based.
So
Okay.
Like a Dragon,
Judgment.
that the Yakuza
That's
series
a little
is Like a
confusing to me
Dragon.
because this is called Like a Dragon.
So it's
which I know
always
this-
been
so,
called
yeah.
Like a Dragon in Japan.
Okay.
And much like we all thought Resident Evil was going to turn into like Biohazard whenever 7 came out, we're like, oh, they're merging the names finally. Yakuza actually did that, where they're like, nothing's called Yakuza anymore. You got Yakuza 1 through 6, and now there's Like a Dragon, which is Yakuza 8, but it's called Like a Dragon 7, Like a Dragon 8, or whatever. And then you have this series, which is Ishin, which has always over there been Like a Dragon, but here it never came out, so we're getting it for the first time.
Yeah.
So hence the name.
because this
Well,
game
not only
came
that-
out before, right?
Yeah, it came out.
It's been
years ago.
2013
They had to
or something like
remake
that.
it. They had to
Yeah.
remake it to have it.
Yeah, they remade it in the
Yeah.
Dragon engine,
Yeah.
in the same engine as like the last couple
The
games. so-
Dragon Engine. That's
So
a
I have a
badass
question
title.
for you, since I'm not as far in, and you're saying,
Best
and
engine name.
I have done some combat. So
Yeah.
I saw, like, when you start the game, it's clearly a Yakuza, like old school Yakuza.
Yeah.
But this has swords and guns. Does that make you feel like you're playing a different game at all?
Yeah,
or-
a little bit. Yeah, so in terms of like the style of the combat, it's similar. It's a lot of flourishes, it's a lot of parries, it's a lot of dodging around and stuff like that, and just kind of like beating your way through fights. But now like you said, you have a sword and pistol and stuff, so it does kind of change things, because usually weapons in old games would break after a few hits. Obviously, they don't do that now. You actually have a gun that you're constantly upgrading. You actually have a sword that you're constantly upgrading or buying new ones. You have like armor and stuff like that you're wearing. It's by no means like Ghost of Tsushima or anything like that, obviously. And Derek, if you played a little bit of it, you can obviously already see that. It is a Yakuza game with
it's very
samurai
Yakuza.
painted on top of it. But like the combat is still pretty interesting, like it's fun, and like all Yakuza games, you're unlocking a lot of moves. So what you start with is very basic, but at the end of it, you're doing some pretty like elaborate like combo combinations and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying it. The world that I'm in now is like super small, like even for like a Yakuza game. But it's dense. There's a lot of stuff there and everything like that. So you're constantly doing stuff. You know,
go
like
into
your
like a
classic
little
side
arena
missions.
or a fight area when you're in combat. Is that how it works?
Kinda, but like the arena is just where you were, but there
Okay.
is it does kind of block itself off.
A little bit
in
of a
some
boundary
ways.
sets up.
Yeah,
when you
maybe
fight.
people will come up and like, you know, like they'll be spectators or whatever. You don't have just free range to run all over the map. I could be wrong on that. They may have changed that in this one. That's how they've worked in Yakuza in the past. I just do a lot of hitting. I don't do a lot of running around and stuff like that.
Fair.
It's always really close quarters, like when you're fighting in these games, unless it's like a boss fight or something like that. So Yakuza games just are always like these really close, like streets and hallways and alleyways and stuff like that. So the arenas aren't too big, I would say, because that's trying to always put you towards something to pick up and use or something like that. So there being a boundary kind of helps you with the combat as well.
So you said it's not a huge
boundaries.
area. These games are typically kind of like linear with open areas, right? Where you can kind of sidetrack, but you're mostly in a linear space.
It's really an open world, like in all Yakuza games, and just like a GTA game, like there is a letter, you know, an icon on the map that's like, okay, that's a main story, but then there's all these other icons and letters on the map that you can just walk up to, and it's like, oh, this is a side thing, or this is a mini game, or this is karaoke, or whatever, you know. And this is just like that, you know. So
this has all that mini stuff that these games are known for.
Oh yeah, I did karaoke for like a whole hour today. It was awesome.
Oh my god.
The songs are like traditional Japanese.
Century?
No, they're called singing bars. It's a way to get like a cute, you know,
just to make it work.
a cute thing in the game that's like reminiscent. Maybe they did. I don't know. I doubt it. But like, you know, you go up there and you perform like a song and stuff like that, and it's silly. And you're encouraged to do it because you're constantly building like relationship meters, like with like all the shopkeepers and stuff like that. So like shopping with these people, or doing errands for these people, or helping them make ramen or whatever, or doing, you know, doing karaoke and stuff like that. It all like increases this meter, and when the meter fills, I guess you get something. You know, I don't really know yet, but that's pretty classic for all Yakuza games as well. So. Yeah, they didn't do too much, you know, to like reinvent the wheel here. It's the same Yakuza flavor. It's the same kind of pacing and everything like that. Just got a really cool backdrop. You know, I really like. You know, it's about. I don't know if y'all watch anime, so Dan, maybe you know this term, but like they do a lot of mentions of the wolves of Mibu. You know, like which is the Shinsengumi. You know.
Okay.
So like they're kind of like the brutality, like police force that kind of. Yeah. That kind of came out of like you know, the empire, or you know, from the emperor to kind of like control everybody, you know, but they were like bad motherfuckers, you know. Sorry for the drop, but that's what they were, you know.
But they were
ridiculous language.
I know, yeah. The train was already rolling. I'm like,
I mean, it was like crooked cops, right? I mean, that's what, you know, it was like crooked cops.
Yeah, I mean, it's all power, you know, corrupts and everything like that. So people, you know, Ronin would just join to become Shinsengumi, and they were, you know, they were just ex-criminals that became police officers, you know. And now, and like the whole idea is you're trying to infiltrate like their ranks to like get someone from within because of this revenge shell that you're on. And just all the name drops. These are all like historical names and phrases and stuff like that. And factions, you know, it's just a fictional story. So it's pretty cool that, you know, I was telling you guys in chat, they use just tons and tons and tons of jargon that I'm like, boy, I'm glad there's a glossary that you can just press start whenever you see a word you don't understand, because they throw out a lot of stuff even that I'm like, I don't know what that is. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really enjoying it a lot. I hope it doesn't like totally take over my life, because I'm still enjoying Hogwarts too. But boy,
so even
this
like
game,
this
you know,
Wolves of
very much my
Mibu
flavor.
thing you talked about, they would explain that in that little glossary, right? They would give you like the background of that. Is that what you?
I didn't press it because I knew what that was, so I didn't look for it at that point. But the game itself explains what it is, very detailed. Like the game, like, because even your character is like, I don't know what that is, and they're like, well, let me tell you, buddy. There's some bad people, dude. You know. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. So, anyone who likes Yakuza is gonna really like this.
30 minutes straight. So I was like, damn.
That's it's a Metal Gear Solid game, and that like every cutscene is like an hour. You know, so.
I think the most egregious cutscenes, and I'm including some of the Metal Gear ones from past, like in terms of just length, had to be the Xenosaga games on the PS2.
Oh, Xenosaga!
Dude, Xenosaga was like a movie. Yeah,
it was
you're watching an anime movie.
45 minute cutscenes sometimes.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
They were so
Metal Gear Solid 4 still has the longest one, clocked at like 133 minutes or something like that. But like uncut, that's one constant cutscene.
Kojima's.
I remember long ones. I didn't remember that
game, so everyone can Yeah.
That's long for a movie when I was expecting a
long.
movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
It's a long
Dang.
one. That's for sure.
But
But
also,
so Kyle, is this what you were expecting from this? Does it feel like a
Yeah.
remake of an old game? Does it feel like a new entry?
No, it kind of feels like the Kiwami games where it's like, oh, I know this is like old. There's some old bones here, but like
Okay.
the makeup
Yeah.
that they put on top of it makes it feel just so like it was built today. You know, this doesn't feel that much different from Yakuza 6. You know, one of the later
Nice.
entries. You know, for that matter. So yeah, I mean, it's super good. And this is a game I always like read about on like message boards and like only saw trailers for and would see gameplay every once in a while like on YouTube, but like very through the looking glass, like, oh, we're never gonna get that game. This sucks. You know, that's the game.
That's the closest you
made for
got to
me.
learning Japanese, isn't it? Like, because you
I'm like, I'm gonna import this game and I'm just gonna let it play in front of me, you know. And it just it's a miracle we even have it, you know. I think because of Ghost of Tsushima and like this sudden pop for be like, hey guys, samurais are cool, you know, like which is so weird that everyone's
the
just like
Yakuza series it just got way more
Yakuza's
popular towards the
growing.
end, right?
That too.
Yeah,
I think
here,
the love for samurai in general, and then this rise of Yakuza in the West, this fandom or
I
whatever.
think
I
Like a
think
Dragon was a pretty big hit for them.
it's a huge hit. Yeah, 6 it started really picking up. Like
So I
steam for
think this is a
people.
good chance for them to continue using that title
Yeah.
here, which they've already, like you said, been using in Japan for a while. But they're like, hey, let's keep using that title and do a throwback to a samurai age. And I think anyone who sees that title is like, oh, cool, it's part of that series from the game I played a year and a half ago, whenever that game came out.
Right. See, it wouldn't have made sense to call this game Yakuza because Yakuza like that wasn't a thing, you know. So.
Well, I get it. That's cool. Well, I'm glad you're liking it. Is anyone else playing it? I know not that you could give us more insight than Kyle did. Anyone else playing it?
No, I definitely can't get more insight than that because I only played an hour, and then
I
I was
only
like,
played an hour.
I was like,
yeah.
mostly
and then I was like, I couldn't get my mind off of a cave I was stuck in Hogwarts, so I had to switch over to that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what happens.
My initial
you know?
impressions as somebody I have finished a couple Yakuza games, and I've definitely played a lot of the other ones. Not a lot of them, but just played them all. I own them all. As soon as I started playing, I was like, oh my, okay. I definitely was expecting more as far as I thought it would play a little different. But again, I'm just in the beginning. That's why I was asking Kyle, like, is it gonna feel a little bit different? But it felt like a Yakuza game, and so I was like, oh, okay. Once I get used to that,
the combat's gonna change up enough where I'm like, it's gonna always feel familiar, but you know, you're gonna be like, there's more stuff to do, and if you're changing your styles and stuff like that, you know, like it'll keep.
To me, I've always been drawn into the desire to play these games because of the story and characters.
Yeah.
And I've always stopped, mainly because I will say I'm not in love with the gameplay. Like, I'm not just talking about this game, I'm saying in general. For the Yakuza games, I don't think they're bad. They're just not my cup of tea.
Yeah,
but,
I can see that.
But this is one that I'm, like, kind of hoping that I think it's a good starting point because it happens before basically everything. And then, like you said, everybody's kind of randomized. It's not a, hey, this is a sequel. Like, this is the 6th one, so you should probably catch up, or you should have to watch a video because
I mean, it might as well take place in a different universe, you know.
Exactly. So this feels like this is a game where I could just play it and not feel like I have to play other ones. So that's why I don't mind starting here.
I feel
Samurai are cool, you know. So,
Samurai are very.
It's an easy gateway.
I can't wait to be able to start to. I'm not sure when it happens in the story, but like. I've just been fighting with my fists so far in the game, very early on. So I'm eager to get, you know, the gun and the sword that you're mentioning. And to get more side quests, because obviously at the very beginning you're kind of still trying to figure out your purpose in the game, where somebody you're talking to is like, here's my plan, here's my Grandmaster plan, and go do this. Now you're off. Go do this to start things up, to get things going. And I'm trying not to spoil it because it is kind of a big deal. But yeah, so like that's where I'm at in the story, and the few fights that I had were quite fun, reminiscent of the Judgment action and stuff like that. Because that's my experiences with the Judgment games. Not
Judgment's
so much
another one that's an easy one to jump into now because there's only 2.
yeah,
and they're not connected to the Yakuza series, right?
Not really. There might be some bleed
Loosely.
over, but
like more Easter eggs and like nods to it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. It is funny when we're trying to be spoiler free, and because I do the same thing. But it's like, hey, I'm at the part where you talk to the guy about the thing, and he tells you to go do the other thing.
Yeah,
You know, what I'm
right
saying?
at the start, with all the
Yeah.
talking.
It's with the guy. The guy. All right.
That,
With the
that
guy.
He's at the place.
Also,
Yeah.
this story introduces an aspect of samurai culture or that era that I wasn't familiar with, where some clans were just total dicks, and they just started wielding their power, just because they had it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was a thing. When I think of samurai, I think of people with honor and stuff
I
like
just
that.
think of Tom Cruise as the last
That's-
samurai. You know?
Samurai
That's
got,
what Western-
samurai
that's
got
what Western
really
media
dirty
does,
there
you
at the
know?
end.
That's
Like those
one of
that
the
last
things I
100
want
years.
to say that I like about the Yakuza games is their characters are so over the top. So when you have when you have a group of baddies, they're beyond over the top, ridiculous. They'll just be like, "What did you say to me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick your
There's
ass."
a lot of that where you bump into someone in town. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna fight you," and it's like
They're like wrestling heels. They're
Yeah,
like
I just
wrestling
killed
heels.
20 people. If you want,
Like the NWO.
Time to go full anime.
I like when I'm in full sprint, by the way, just around the small hub that you're in when you first start the game. And when I run into a dog, it yelps at me. I think that's really funny.
You can't pet any of the cats or dogs, so it's
No
obviously
petting.
1 out of 10.
Well, that's-
Obviously,
that's-
one out of
two
10, yeah.
two out of 10.
Yeah.
2 out of 10.
Sorry,
Garbage.
everybody.
Should have led
That's
with that. We
garbage.
could have just skipped right.
Yeah,
to the
I
next
know. We
thing.
can skip the whole thing, though. I know.
No, that actually does sound like a lot of fun. I'm so glad it's early access for folks.
So
it
it's
doesn't
another
technically-
bad release for this year. so
another
far.
bad release, right? Yeah.
Another
we're
bad
doing
one.
it.
Put it on
Like-
the bad list.
In all seriousness, it's yet another over 80 on Metacritic of a new game
Is
for
it really? Wow.
2023.
Well, this
At least
is
I
a
think
beloved
it is. It might be
series.
70. It
man.
might be 79, but it's like it's in
They're
that good,
always
right there,
in
you know?
the 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's in
except
that
when they
range
deal
that's
with zombies.
enough to be like, dude, this is a good game. Like it's in that range. So, same with the next one we'll talk about, at least so far, and that's Wild Hearts. Both these games, there was early access available, depending on if you bought a special edition, or in this case, if you subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate, you get 10 hours access to it, or if you are an EA Play Plus Super whatever subscriber, whatever that
EA
is.
Play Pro.
There's a pro that's like all the games are free.
There's too
basically.
many
Pro
tiers.
plus
stuff.
ultra plus.
Yes, exactly.
Max.
I actually did that. I didn't buy the game. I just did the EA
Even if
Play
you-
Pro.
But even if you
Like,
I appreciate Jeff reminding me of this. Even if you just have Game Pass Ultimate,
Yep.
and you've got EA Play access, you get 10 hours. That's how I got to play a little chunk of time with Need for Speed Unbound. That's how I got a little bit of time with this game, and so I like being able to. It's almost like a
Yeah,
demo,
same here.
honestly, like
Dude,
a
it's
lengthy demo.
perfect. It's like the perfect amount of time, because usually by hour 8, I'm like, do I want to keep doing this or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if you do, then buy the game or subscribe to their
So
service. But
with this
Derek,
game,
you played this game the most. I'll throw it to you. I only played a very
Yeah.
little bit, but go ahead.
Me
what do you
too.
think?
well, only thing I was gonna say on just so people know, yes, you get 10 hours, but you get blocked off after the 3rd boss. So all you can do, or beast, I should say. So all you can do is just keep redoing those same.
So it really
3
is like
that
a
are-
demo. It's a demo.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a
So
hard
yes,
gate. I
you
didn't
get
realize
10
that.
hours, but you're blocked. It's
Okay.
not like you can just play 10 hours of the complete
That's
story.
actually pretty smart.
It was
Yeah.
very because they give you
Smart.
enough content that you can decide, nah, I don't really like this. I'm not gonna buy it,
Right.
or yeah, I really like this. It's worth
I'll
exploring.
either subscribe or I'm
the
going to
other
buy
beast.
this thing. But so you subscribed. You've been playing it for a little while. I know you like it a lot. This also, same as with Like a Dragon Ishin, it's gotten kind of that 80s-ish range of reviews. So basically,
Yeah.
to me, that tells me like if you like this genre and if this game clicks with you, you're going to really enjoy it. It doesn't
I'll
mean
be
it's going to be
honest.
for everyone, but yeah, what do you
I
think?
played it before the reviews came out, and I knew I liked it, but I didn't expect reviewers to like it.
Why is
Not
that?
as much. I don't know. I when I was playing, I was like, I don't know if reviewers are gonna have as much fun with this, because I feel like they were just gonna call it a Monster Hunter ripoff that didn't do it as well. And some of them, of course, bring up. I shouldn't say some. All reviewers do bring up Monster Hunter, because clearly it's not
Inspired.
even kind of inspired. It's literally taking from Monster
Yeah.
Hunter.
Same thing.
But
Oh, it's
for
the
me-
younger brother who dresses like the older brother and talks like
Yes.
him, and
Sure.
Yeah.
but his playlist is a little
this
bit different.
one,
like-
yes, this one has different tricks that I personally love.
Oh, for
So
sure.
a couple of things that I think separate it from Monster Hunter. One of the biggest ones is when you start Monster Hunter, most of the time you're brought into you have your opening area where you do a little thing, and then you go into a town and you get overwhelmed with a gazillion things that absolutely turn me off, because I'm like, not just for the over talking. We already know I hate over talking, but I don't like when you tell me. It's like if you start a new job and they're like, "We're gonna train you on everything day one," instead of like
Yeah.
kind of piecing it
And
together.
can I
for
interject
you.
there too, Derek? They're not just telling you about everything. They're not pausing to give you a chance to try that thing. Like it's
No, that's what
as
I'm
you're
saying.
trying to like, okay, let me remember. I gotta hold this button and hit that button to activate this thing. But then they tell you 10 more things, and you're like, there was a way to like heal myself. I forget what the
Yeah.
buttons were because that was a long time ago, and they've introduced all these new concepts to me. That's part of the obtuseness of Monster Hunter. I don't
Yeah.
think the gameplay is all that obtuse. You hit a button to swing a sword, and there's combos, but it's what you're saying. Introduction to that world is
Yeah.
overwhelming.
It could be overwhelming, and I
At
mean,
least
if
the
you're-
older games. The newer games are better, but yeah.
newer games are better, but even Rise had that. Like when you go into the town area or whatever, I was like, they were telling me to go to like 50 different people. I'm like, guys, just let me go back to the battlefield. So I feel like this game does a little bit better job of that because you literally just go, you do your intro area, which kind of teaches you the basics, and then you go to a camp and it gives you assignments, and then you're in the middle of doing this assignment. Like one of them is like, hey, help this girl who's injured. And when you go to help her, this beast just comes in and kind of like tries to attack you guys, and you end up chasing the beast, and that's your first monster fight, like your first legit one.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gets you already in the world. You've only learned a couple of things, and now you're just out there fighting, and then they start showing you and telling you stuff as you're fighting. So it's kind of a tutorial, but it's not as easy as tutorial because the beast is actually kind of difficult solo to bring down by yourself. So I feel like it does a better job of, to me, bringing players in, especially if you're new to the franchise. They also start you with the easiest weapon. So you start with the katana, which is
Nice.
easily the highlight for me of this game because compared to Monster Hunter weapons, this one feels the most like arcadey. Like there's a, and it does it in this game too, but there's like like this subtle delay in Monster Hunter games. What I mean by that is like even if you're locked onto a beast and you go into a combo and the beast moves, which they do a lot, you're still stuck in your combo. There's no like, hey, you can
Cancel.
stop. Yeah. So this game has that too, but because of how quick your attacks are, you don't feel like you're stuck like fighting over here while the beast is over there for like 30 minutes because you're like, can I stop? Can you please
Dude,
stop
there's
doing
been
the
so
combo?
many times that I've done my big like hammer like vertical whirlwind right as they move, and I'm doing it in the air to nothing. And I slam the ground, and there's nothing
Sure.
there. I'm
And
like,
that still happens here where I'll go
Okay.
into like a longer winded combo and I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got them all set up. I've got my
Yeah.
power meter up. I'm going to
I
go in
charge
on
it
him.
up. Yeah.
And he freaking rolls out of the way and I'm like over here going like this. But
Fight in the air there, guy.
yeah. But
Oh, yeah.
overall, I just feel like it's a little bit more approachable. It's a little more arcadey, and then there are some systems that are built into it that I actually just think, in general, make it more fun. So you have these abilities to create in the beginning, just kind of stack boxes. Now they help you to climb, but actually in the boss fights, you can actually jump off of them, which then leads to a more powerful ranged attack. So you kind of like, it's kind of cool because when I'm using the katana sword, you like lean back like you're doing some anime power move, and then you dive down into them.
The aerial
Man.
attacks look awesome.
They do look cool.
At least the that I've seen.
Yeah, and then you start to slowly, as you level up and as you play the game more, you start to unlock more abilities. And it's cool because the game will, like, I was fighting a boss and it put up all these things to do, and I was like, what are you doing? I'm just trying to create boxes. But it's actually teaching me something new. Like, one of them was you create a wall. It's almost like a great wall. And it just tells you right away to do it, and that unlocks it. And you just have to be able to create 6 crates or 6 boxes, and it'll automatically turn into this wall. Well, what's the benefit of the wall? The beast can eventually break the wall, but it takes a couple of powerful attacks for them to break it. So that wall gives you protection if you want to heal, or you can also jump off that wall, which again leads to power attacks. So
Can I just mention too, like the speed at which you can build and then quickly
Yeah.
climb and jump off of them, like you said, arcadey.
it's
It
very
feels
fast.
good. Yeah.
It
That's
almost
good.
kind of sounds like Fortnite. But like obviously that's with
Yeah,
games,
yeah,
but
there's
I'm
a
saying,
little
like,
element
your
But
of
the
that.
building
walls-
mechanics
Yeah,
is extremely quick, like Fortnite.
There
It's
is a little
very-
element of that for sure.
You just
Yeah.
drop
Yeah.
something down
You
and
just drop
Yeah,
it
They
real quick.
clearly went Monster Hunter, Fortnite. Yeah, okay, we got a thing.
it's not
And-
a bad thing to combine with this, like, again, like getting towers for elevated attacks and
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
use of traps. I mean, that was the thing in the trailers that kind of I was like, oh, that's their hook.
Well, I wanna
It's
mention,
Monster
too, they
Hunter
don't-
and then this hook.
They don't make it unlimited building. I wanted to mention this too. You actually have a
Sure.
resource that I'm assuming,
you
Derek,
have
you
to
can
level
upgrade
up,
that
yep.
over time. But
Yep.
like you start with the ability to like log 12 of these spirits or whatever, these wisps, whatever they are, and you get them by collecting them from specific rock piles or like rock collections or like trees. You can kind of like siphon them out of things in the environment
Mhm.
and get them back. But then once you build something, you use those, and so it gives you some limits. That way, you're
Yeah.
not just building 100 box tall walls
Sure.
necessarily.
Yeah, you're blocked off from like cheesing it, like
It's it's
building
another meter to keep track
nonstop.
of, but they
Yep.
do it in a way that makes sense. Like it's a very
It's to
obvious little
balance
point
it, yeah.
Like every time you level up, you basically unlock the ability to, at least so far in the game where when I'm leveling up, it'll always level up your. So let's say I picked a level up my attack, it'll also level up my ability to create boxes from 13 to 14, from 14 to 15. So it always levels it up by one so far. So that's a nice thing. There's a lot to the game that is a lot like Monster Hunter. So you are farming material from these monsters. Some of them you need to chop things off their head, some their tail, some their mid body. That's the other thing. You can actually. This reminds me of Dragon's Dogma. You can actually cling to the monsters and then crawl to like certain
That's cool.
vulnerable areas, and then
Yep,
basically
yep.
stick
Shadow
your
of the
hand in
Colossus a little bit too.
I like
Dude,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah,
there's
cool.
I'm not overhyping this game. There's a lot of great games out right now. There's a lot. Like Harry Potter. Hogwarts is legit one of the best games to come out this year. But as far as fun factor, just like diving in, like turn your brain off and just have fun with a bunch of other like Japanese people, which again, this game's just like Monster Hunter where
That's how I played those. Yeah.
when you
Sure.
play co-op and you get those little Japanese signals, you're like, golden.
I know
don't even
we're
freaking need to
winning.
do
I
anything.
know we're winning.
White boys just sitting back. I ain't gonna
You're
do
just sitting
anything.
back building
I
boxes
learned
while they
so
kill everything.
much. I don't do.
They're
anything
using the
like this.
smallest
Oh,
weapon.
yeah. Kyle, you're saying you actually like watch how they play and you get better at it. is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
seriously, yeah. I got
Right.
again. It doesn't sink in that match, but like I'll be like, I didn't know you could do that,
Yeah.
I've learned
yeah.
some stuff where I'm like, oh, they must have taught that to me. And I
But
didn't
if you
know it.
get Bong Hitter 69 to come on, like you're gonna have a bad game. You're like, oh, this
The
white-
character model's like stumbling. They're like
this-
high
yeah,
and drunk
God
or
damn it,
something.
we're never gonna get through this.
There
Yeah.
are definitely some clue words like bong, the number 69. There's a few of them like
Yeah, yeah,
mother
yeah.
or mom or mama. Like watch out for all of them.
420. Yeah, mother.
To me, these
Yeah.
games are like, and this one even more than Monster Hunter because it's a little more arcadey. Again, it is a lot like Monster Hunter. So if you hate
Yeah.
Monster Hunter games, this is not for you. But for me, this is the equivalent of a really good version of Destiny that's melee only. I know you can use the bow and arrow weapon, which actually I was seeing people comment on because I don't use it. That they were saying in Monster Hunter games they stay away from any like bow type of weapons and stuff like that because it's kind of crap. This game is legit like good. It
Oh,
feels
nice.
good. It
That's
works
good.
good.
Can you
'Cause,
change
yeah, the
weapons,
bow-
or are you
all the-
are you locking into a certain weapon?
So each weapon has their own like. So I think you start out. You can choose from like 5, and then you can upgrade whatever one you want. But like the basic upgrade for each one is really like not a lot of materials. So you can kind of play around, and then once you figure out, hey, I like this weapon, then you just start leveling that up. But you can always, because you have. From fighting these beasts over and over, you're gonna have extra that you could actually level up multiple.
Yeah, so you can play
weapons.
around. Just so it's like Monster
Yeah,
Hunter 2.
Like
you
so
can
for
kinda
me,
swap.
you're rocking different
I s-
armor, different weapons.
yeah, I
different
started
every
with
match,
the
depending on
fat
what you're doing.
sword at first. So you start out with a katana, but I was like, oh, I want to try this fat sword, and I tried it and I liked it a lot. And then I went back to the katana. I was like, no, you know what? I didn't realize how slow I was with this. The katana, you are a speedster. Like you are literally your actual character. I'm not talking about just attacks. I'm talking about running too. Is slower with the heavier
So
weapons.
it's like almost like Souls games, where like the more like heavier stuff you have,
yeah,
it
more
slows
weight
you
you
down.
have, the slower you are.
I will say Monster Hunter has some pretty in-depth mechanics, of course. Every weapon has its own like stances or modes, or like there's different ways you can kind of shift into a new stance. You take more damage, but you do more damage. All kinds of stuff like that in Monster Hunter and all their weapons. This one with the katana, even on that practice dummy at the beginning, I was trying to learn a few combos before I went to fight that first monster in Wild Hearts. And even there's I forget the word for it, Derek, but there's like you hold in right trigger and hit either one of the attacks, and you go into like this unlocked or unchained or whatever they call it
You're
mode.
talking about when your meter's full. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you go into that mode, and you can turn it off if you want to save some of that meter if you're done doing whatever combos. But like my katana went into like almost like this sword whip magic-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it goes into this crazy mode. I was doing all these insane combos, and right away I was like, dude, this looks so cool. And to me, it's not a turn your brain off. Like maybe it is, maybe it's much simpler than I'm making it. But
I'm
I was
saying
like,
once you figure it out,
okay,
and you're just going out and hunting, like Destiny. Destiny is if I just said to you, Destiny's to turn your brain off, you might agree with me if you haven't played it a lot because you're like it's just a shooter. But all the systems in Destiny are actually very confusing. But once you learn them, it's literally just turn it off, go shoot things with your friends.
Go run a bunch of.
That's what this game feels like. It feels like once you learn the systems, which are gonna take a while, but this game I just feel like does it better than Monster Hunter. But once you learn all the systems, it is 100% just a fun like. It's not a game where I'm like, guys, I gotta beat this game. I gotta see the story play out. It's a game where I'm just like, I'm in the mood to just play with other people and have fun. That's what this game is to me.
Yeah.
It's really
and
good.
The completion aspect too, of like, hey, I never did beat that monster. I want to go back and try that monster again. Like that.
And all the monsters are so like I'm in the second area, so there's one. The first area is the one I told you have access to on Game Pass Ultimate, and then I'm in the second area. And so they tell you a beast to go fight. Of course, Derek being alpha male ignores that, runs into a different one. I'm like, I'm solo. Let's do this. Let's go. That mother fricker tore me up in like 2 seconds.
So who's the true alpha then?
I mean,
well, at the beginning,
he made me look like a beta for sure.
At the beginning, they do the thing that a lot of games do, which I don't usually like. It's usually fine. I just don't love it when they make you feel super weak because they put you up against a boss that you're supposed to lose to. And even if you do some damage, like they want you to die. Like you're not.
Yeah.
And
the first beast is like a freaking spaz at one point. Yeah. If you get too much damage in, it starts going and you die. You have to. Like it's part of the story. So.
And then it goes to a cutscene and like, oh, okay. But then I still there's something about that feeling I don't like as much. Like
me neither. Because I went into it convinced I was gonna be able to beat him somehow, but no, there's no way.
So like I wasn't really frustrated because I was like it's supposed to lose here. But it's
a
little deflating. Honestly,
the Souls does it better because that you do have a chance. It's just very difficult. But you have the opportunity to.
I don't think. I mean, maybe this one is, but I don't think this is a beatable boss.
Sure. Ghost of Tsushima. Apparently, that guy's beatable, but then it goes to the same cutscene as when he.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So maybe this one is, but. It's the same cliche thing. Hopefully they'll stop doing that stuff. But the only thing I wanted to add is I thought it was pretty cool because, like, again, a lot of the preview stuff you see for this game, you see building boxes, jumping off that stuff I talked about. But there's a lot of cool weapons you unlock. Like, I was playing with guys who were building hammers. Like, I'm talking big hammers. And those hammers would just fling and they slam down.
I love the mega hammers in Monster Hunter. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
I love
this isn't a weapon. They're building it, so they might be using the katana, but they're building this big hammer that can't move. It's just in a stacked place.
Okay. Like a trapper.
It's like on a spring, and it just slams down.
Oh, like a trap.
Like whack-a-mole. Like
exactly what it is whack-a-mole.
That's pretty awesome.
It's super fun, all this stuff. It's different stuff you can build. Like right now, I have access to, I can build, and other people do as well when I'm playing co-op. We just build like these little fires. Like they're like basically stands, and then you have a fire. what's cool about that is you don't have to push a button. You just run by it, and you'll take your weapon, you'll put it through, so that obviously your weapon lights on fire, but it automatically goes into a swing. So if you set those up by the monster and then run by it, you'll just swing and start a combo into the monster and start lighting them on fire, and then it stays on fire for a little bit, and you just keep using it until it goes out, and then you build another one. So there's just a lot of like fun stuff. I'm telling you, if you learn how to play the game, I'm not saying anybody here is stupid. I'm not being passive aggressive. I'm saying in general, if you learn how to play the game, there's a lot of fun to have in this.
Yeah, if you put in the time, it's going to be
stuff.
It sounds like they're adding all these like little extra accoutrements, like traps, and like you said, like so the way that you set your weapon on fire is like this like extra little step, but it just makes it unique. Where it's like you're kind of like having to build the thing.
A creative way to set your sword on fire, as opposed to just
obviously each monster has its weakness, so you're not going to use a fire attack against a lava pit monster. So there's
like
different things
behind you.
There's
like that guy.
There's different elements that you can use, stuff that you're going to unlock against certain, and that goes with your gear too. So it's not like you're like, well, I just want to get that gear because it's higher rated. There's some gear that you unlock in the beginning that's better than stuff later on because maybe it's high defense against fire, whereas you unlock something later that's just high defense in general, and you're going to go fight a fire boss, you want to put the fire stuff on, and same thing with your weapon. Cool. So there's a lot of depth here, a lot of fun here. I haven't even come close to unlocking everything. There is a story. I don't pay attention to it. I'm sure it's great. Don't care.
It's very Monster Hunter-esque. Just in terms, like, there's lots of mythology going on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It also threw me off that they call the monsters kimonos, because at first I was like, are we fighting dresses? What is this?
Yeah. You really couldn't land on a different name
dresses?
The only negative I would have for this game is and I'm including PC with this, it's just not pretty. Like, when you first boot it up, I'm like, this is gorgeous. Like, the first thing I thought, I was like, this opening area, this is gorgeous. But once you start playing it out in the open area of the game, and you've got three guys fighting together with this big monster and all this stuff, it drops in frames. It's got a lot of like
be optimized in the future, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope they clean up the optimization, but I don't even think it's just that. I just think there's a lot going on that they drop the frames. Or
that's a shame. The designs look cool. Like that gorilla thing behind you looks sick as hell.
I do recommend, if you're playing this on PC, don't use upscaling yet until they patch it and fix it, because it made it so like
what a joke.
Washed out. It looked like a water painting, but a bad one. Everything was fuzzy.
Something's wrong. They have
wrong. Yeah.
I was like, this is weird. So I turned that off, and because you have to reboot you have to kind of reload your save, if restart the game if you're gonna turn on and off upscaling. And then I was like, oh, it's much sharper now. It looks better, but it still didn't. Like, if you think about Monster Hunter Rise, how that looks on the Switch on a big screen, you're forced to say, hey, for a Switch game, ... it's fine, it's good, it works, and it's not bad. This to me isn't that much better looking than it is better looking, but it's not like astronomically better looking than because like the textures are kind of flat. The grass is like every once in a while there's a tuft that's in 3D, but the rest of it's like a flat image on the ground. Really? So like it's not the most pretty, like it's not the most like impressive.
Tell the opening area was like, hey, we gotta suck people in. This is our intro like sex scene to get you to watch our show, and then after that they're like, here we go, we're gonna cut some corners so we can keep the frames per second above 30. So, but overall, like I said, there's
not enough to ruin your enjoyment. It sounds like,
no.
It sounds like you're still enjoying it. Yeah.
This game's so much fun.
Yeah, cool.
Because graphics were not the problem I was thinking when I'm watching trailers for that game. Like, I'm not in a million years am I going like, oh, this is an ugly game.
Right. It's just funny because we're like talking about this, and I get a text from Sasan. He's like, this is literally what he said. He's like, we weren't even talking about this game. He's like, bro, why is Wild Hearts so ugly but so rad? So it's like what we're talking about right now. Like it's so ugly. Now he's playing on PS5. I'm playing on PC, but I played on Xbox, and I thought.
So he even thinks it's ugly, like on PS5. It's not a PC problem. It's
no. It's just
no. That's a game designer. For me, the PC thing was more about figuring out the settings. They just need to kind of patch it to make sure the settings are better.
I think the art style is phenomenal. I just think the package of what they're trying to do. You got to remember this is co-op and all that open kind of big open areas.
The armor design is great too. Like if you like Monster Hunter art, like armor design, which I think is amazing, and their weapon design is amazing. So this seems to have all of that in place.
I also think the monsters are really cool.
Monsters
I really like the third monster. I don't know if you guys got to the third monster, but he's like I
got to the second one. That's as far as I got into it.
All right, the third one is like the one they showed off and like kind of like promoting the game, and that's that big like boar, the crazy looking boar.
Okay.
That is like I would highly recommend if you guys are at all interested in this game, get to that fight. It is going to frustrate you. Obviously, play it co-op. If you try to solo it, I did solo him, but I did it after I had already beat him with other people and had leveled up. But it's just one of the most epic fights because he's relentless, he's huge, and he has you in little areas, and then eventually he leads you to this big open area. It's just a great boss fight, and he's awesome. Like his design is super cool, and what he transforms into, they all transform as well, so that changes the battle and the tactics. It's pretty cool.
Look at EA delivering a good new IP this year. How about that?
And by the way, for those people that don't know, this is made by the guys who made like Tukiden games. So these guys have been doing this. Tukidens are games that were just like Monster Hunter as well. They just weren't as successful.
Oh, those. Okay. Yeah.
So they're not new to this. This isn't like they're just ripping off Monster Hunter. They're like, this is what we do too. We've been doing this for a long time. So
I was actually just gonna say there's not a lot of games like Monster Hunter, but I totally forgot about those games.
Yeah. And I just feel like these guys are like this is their big break with EA. Maybe they got a little bit of EA money, and this is definitely a bigger, better version of what they've created before.
These are the Dynasty Warriors guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
crazy.
Yeah, the Dynasty Warriors guys did that. The game that he's talking about, Tukiden, because I played it.
Are there two of those, right?
That was like the Omega Force.
Yeah. Oh, I see it now. I have to scroll all the way down, and I can see it now.
Yeah. Interesting.
They did Persona 5 Strikers, too. I love that game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, my main man. So I just
got another game you're playing.
I got to push through this. I got to push through this game because immediately, like when you go from a game that has really effective, very immediate responsive combat like Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
And then I go into a game like this that wants you to kind of demonstrate a little more patience with your strikes and more precision. I really just have to push through especially because that first fight, you're not with the big monster. You're not supposed to win.
I mean, my recommendation for you or anybody else is you've got like 70 games right now. Only play this game when you're ready to play it.
Yeah, like Hogwarts Legacy, Ishin, and like, Metroid Prime Remastered.
Too many games, you're not going to have patience.
Yeah, I mean,
if you've got 70 games.
Immediately take priority for me. But I will say also, I will mention that I had the same PC performance issues you guys mentioned. I'm gonna have to play with the settings a lot. That's probably gonna be a lot of my playtime with this game because the lighting and the shading is just awful. It's awful on my PC.
God awful. They
good. It's not just me. All right. No. So like, I'm gonna have to play with the settings a lot.
I'm like literally playing the game. Like I'm in a boss fight. I'm like, who's turning on and off the lights? Who's turning on and off the lights? Because it's literally going flick, 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 flick.
Jesus.
And Hogwarts even has some of that sometimes when you go from like, obviously when you're outside, then you go inside to this castle or whatever. But this is like everywhere you walk. It's like, what the hell why is there a reflection on a bush?
Literally a kid. It's literally a kid in the corner going like,
who's turning off the lights?
I forget what game it was. It might have been Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There was a game that I played early on the PC that just looked gorgeous, but some of the HDR settings or something when you would come out of
an Assassin's Creed game that kept flickering or whatever.
Yeah, it was almost like, dude, there's like strobe light happening. I had to like turn it off and like reload a save.
It may have been the one in France that had all the technical issues.
Oh, Unity?
Yeah, could have been.
With the missing faces.
So it sounds like we've got two pretty good recommendations so far. So we're 2 for 2 on the new games
All
for
right,
this
let's
week.
bring in a trash game now.
Well, now let's talk about real quick. If anyone has played it, the highest reviewed game that was released this week was Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. Did anyone play it?
That was the highest.
Yeah.
I downloaded the demo, which is
like a demo.
lets you carry and it lets you carry over like
On
your
Switch?
progress. On PS5.
PS5. Okay.
Yeah, there's probably I think there's probably a demo on Switch.
There is one on Switch.
Yeah, okay.
There is one on Switch, Jeff. Get it back.
Okay, let me get
So I had never played the Theatrhythm games on the DS or 3DS. I had never played it on on there, so I wasn't actually familiar with like as far as actually like
just
playing the
folks
games.
what it is, like what and why.
So
I'm
it is it is a Final Fantasy rhythm game. Basically, it's like I don't know, it's like the whole catalog, but it's a ton of songs. Like it's hundreds of songs. I think
it was 380 something. They said.
Yeah, so it's a crap ton. There's going to be DLC of like other games, like Nier Automata is going to be in there. Chrono Trigger songs. Like there's going to be some other great Square games that they're going to have as DLC. But basically, you have like. On the right side, you kind of have this like oval, long, like thin oval thing, and then you have these circles passing by on the screen, and you're basically trying to match up the circles with that space there. So it's a rhythm game where you're trying to match the circles up, and obviously there's bad, good, perfect scores whenever you actually nail it. But there's not like the thing is like if I'm playing it on the console, because I'm not like touching a screen, I hit any of the face buttons and it counts. So it kind of takes away that sort of like
mobile game experience in that.
Yeah, because it's like I think how it works great on the handheld is you're actually using the stylus and hitting the circle on the different rows, because there's 4 rows. So on the handheld, it makes more sense in using a stylus, and that's more fun because it's more interactive. Whereas this, you're just hitting any face button, and it's just like, oh, as long as you get it in that space on the right side, you get it. So, but I mean, there's different difficulties. So I'm sure if you play it on hard, it's still like you're still kind of getting something out of it, where you're still having to like time all the button presses. I don't think it's fun to play, if I'm gonna be honest.
Are you not a rhythm game fan, or you are?
No, I mean, I love Guitar Hero and Rock Band and stuff like that, but that's like a completely different beast. This is just like I'm hitting the circles, and it's just not fun to play, I think. But the visual presentation of the game is really nice. It's
you
colorful,
check the settings, right?
Really
So there's like 3 different ways to play the game.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah.
So I just basically did the tutorial, and then I like did a few levels.
Yeah, I haven't explored it, but I know there's like different variations, and I don't know how deep they are or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
It could be like you only have to press X. I don't know. It could be something stupid where you're like, well, this doesn't change my experience at all.
Okay. So maybe I would have to mess around.
We're checking out for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is really cool.
385 carefully selected tracks from over 46 different games. Holy crap, dude!
And it's the Final Fantasy series, like to me, which is the best music in video games ever. Like, and obviously,
you've played these games before?
I played all of these games, even the Kingdom Hearts one. I played and beaten every single one of them.
What about this new one? Have you tried this one yet, or demo?
Yeah, I only I downloaded the demo, but I didn't try it because I kind of figured I was like, I've played all these games, I know how it's gonna play. So whenever I have time, I'll just buy it. But I've only heard about the 3 settings. I don't know how deep they are, so it's worth investigating. It's probably something I'm going to check after the cast tonight. Because that does sound a little boring to me in terms of that. It is getting good reviews, so there must be something there.
It's at 87 on Metacritic.
And in terms of it just being a game, about like pressing buttons at the right time, you are getting loot and experience points and all this other stuff.
It kind of plays out like a battle, like an actual battle.
Yeah, and like the thing on the screen does kind of play out as a battle, and then sometimes it's a big like music video stage where like it'll be like scenes from like Final Fantasy VII or whatever. Advent Children and whatnot, and so there's some cool stuff going on there as well. Again, I haven't played this one exactly, and I know one of the knocks that I've seen on a couple of reviews is that like there's not a lot of modes. There's just like the quote unquote campaign mode. There's like a select your stage mode, and there's a versus mode, and like that's it. So it's pretty bare bones in that regard.
Yeah, it is still not a full price game, by the way. It's like $50.
It's 50.
Yeah. So that could explain the less modes, I guess. I don't know.
And also, so I forgot. So you are hitting the face buttons, but then there's a couple other like things where like you basically hold up or down on the analog stick, left, right. So there are like other couple things that you're doing. It's just for me like if I'm playing like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, like you're having to press the exact button the way that they laid out the track in the game. You know what I mean? So there's something there's like a thing that
like
you're having.
Beat Saber does that too, right?
Yeah.
They definitely do that in the handheld games. Again, I can't really speak to this one
Yes.
though, but yeah, I mean the way that you're again like using your stylus, like it feels like you're like tapping to the beat, you know.
Yes.
I don't mind pulling out the stylus
and maybe that gets
version,
better with
like
bigger difficulty modes.
I haven't used the Switch stylus since the Mario Maker 2 days, so maybe I'll.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if it like plays that way. I don't know if it's like if it's only you're using the buttons or if it has
gotta have touch screen, right?
Yeah, I don't that I don't know. So that's the thing. I have no idea.
All right.
That would make it
at least a couple of us have downloaded it. I mean, Jeff and I just started downloading it tonight. The demo. So
I'll be curious if the Switch one lets you use the touchscreen then.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll check that out. We'll check that out. All right. Another game that came out this week that I don't think any of us knew how this thing was going to land. Kyle, I know you were super excited about it. Derek was also excited about it, and that was Wanted Dead. Didn't review amazingly across the board, but it does have some reviews where people really enjoyed it. Some people are loving it. Some people aren't. What do you guys think about Wanted Dead so far?
You want to go first, Kyle?
Yeah. I'm like 3 hours in, so I put some good amount of time into it with it. I know you were having problems with the difficulty. This is kind of my genre, so like normal is still pretty easy for me. So I haven't had, but it is a really weird combat system, I will say.
Is it?
Like what kind of game is this? Like a character action?
So it's a character. It's Ninja Gaiden. I mean, it's made by the same people, you know. It's made by the same team. It's not the same director, you know, but like it's made by a lot of the people who were on that team, and that's how it plays. And that's kind of how, you know, and Ninja Gaiden is known to be punishing. So
is it like
it is
a zoomed out view, kind of like is it isometric, kind of a 3D space? Are you kind of over the shoulder?
It's exactly like Ninja Gaiden from Xbox.
Okay, gotcha.
So like behind the camera, behind.
So like I'm trying to think like Devil May Cry, or not quite as close as God of War. You know, it's pulled out a little more than that. But when you like, I think you shoot in that game, which I don't use too often, the gun, but like whenever they'll like zoom in to like kind of a Resident Evil 4 style, you know, close in view or whatever when you're using like your machine gun. But it's mostly like your sword and your pistol. And like your pistol is used to kind of like disrupt like their animations, and your sword is used to kind of like close in and do some damage. And you're kind of alternating between the two. It's pretty easy to bounce between targets and stuff like that. It's really parry heavy, so you're like much like Ninja Gaiden as well. You know, like whenever attack's coming in, you have a very small window to hit that block, and you'll be able to parry someone and really do some damage. But then they have kind of a really cool like execution system, and the more you go down the skill tree, the more easier it is to do those executions. And that's just like by hitting like X or you know, I think it's like triangle and circle at the same time while that character is glowing. You'll go into some really elaborate like kill scene. They're pretty sick. So that's really fun. Like that's a hook or whatever. It's just got old. It just feels like a PS2 game, you know. So like all the things I wanted Gungrave to be, which that didn't pan out too well, this game is for me, you know. So it's cool. It's that kind of throwback, you know. Like you know, I don't want to say gameplay first because I think the gameplay is pretty polarizing for a lot of people. I'm actually, before I go on, I want to hear what Derek says about the combat. When you kind of adjust the difficulty, are you enjoying the combat more?
Yeah, like I have no problem saying that, especially hearing you say it wasn't that difficult for you on normal, which I'm actually impressed because I didn't play it a lot on normal, but as soon as I started in that first area, I get overwhelmed when you got like 20 guys shooting at me. Mm-hmm. And I know there's like a cover system and stuff, but I was even having trouble with that. So I was just overwhelmed. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier when I was talking about Wild Hearts, and that is when I have like 10 games, I'm going to just speak for me. I don't know about you guys. I have very little patience. So if I start something...
If I know I can switch to something else,
and it gives me any resistance, I was mad. Like, I bought the game, and I started it, and I died, like, 2 times, and it restarted me from the very beginning.
It throws you in it. This game throws you in it.
Yeah, there isn't, like... It's not like... It's very old school. So, like, when you die, it has checkpoints, but the checkpoints aren't like, 10 seconds ago. It's like, You got to go through
Maybe a
that
couple
wave of
minutes.
enemies again.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, frickin' A. So then
Yeah.
I went on. So I bought this on Steam. So I always check like the Steam bitch area where people just bitch. And I was like,
The
somebody's
comment
got to be.
section. Okay.
That's an official tab.
Yeah.
There.
The bitch
I
area.
said, somebody's got. I cannot be the only person complaining. Somebody's got to be bitching. And of course, somebody's like, this game's too hard. And they're like, just push up, down, left, right on the menu screen, and you can unlock noob ass bitch mode. And so I did that, and I started playing it, and I was like, you know what? This game is a lot of
Wait,
fun.
are you serious? There's a code to input to unlock an easy
Yeah,
mode?
or you die like 20 times.
I kind of like that they have.
Yeah.
You have to search for it, find the code, and input it to get
It's
easy
almost
mode.
the Konami code too.
I kind of like that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
almost the Konami code, but not quite. Yeah.
That's
They
funny.
force you. You either have normal or hard.
Yeah,
and then I
they
put
want
in
you
the
to start
code.
the game where they want you to, and then they
Yeah.
want you to
Which is not
die
a
a
bad
lot,
idea.
and then.
But they
and
know
then you can
you're
turn
gonna
on
go
easy,
searching online to complain about this. Then you'll learn there's an easy mode, and here,
Yeah.
I like that, man. That's pretty good.
So I would say overall, again, I've only played an hour, but I actually really do like the game. It's overall cheese. It has terrible dialogue, terrible characters. I don't care about the story. This game is just fun to run around, slice people up. I do agree. I think I will get a little bit better at the game because I noticed as I started playing it more and started figuring out the systems, I was starting to like well, now I'm forgetting the word, not dodge, parry. And then I would go into executions, which made me feel like John Wick. I was like, "Oh my god, these executions!"
Yeah. There's some
so
really good like combos, like with the
good.
sword and the gun. That just I'm like that makes me feel so cool.
I mean, the trailer looked stylish AF, dude.
It looked it's super
it
stylish. The game is like all style and just like dummy substance. And a good parallel to this game, maybe the best one I probably should have compared it to first is like any of Grasshopper's games, or specifically like No More Heroes. It's like exactly like that in tone and the comedy style and story delivery. Even like it's like, okay, you're done like with that mission. Now you're like in a hub. Go do some like side quests or like mow the yard like you could in like those games. Or in this case, there's other things to do around like the police precinct. And it's all like goofy and like you're either like kind of bought into the cheese or you're checked out or you hate it. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like no one's going like this is just great stuff. Like just like No More Heroes where it's kind of cringy and it's kind of weird and it's kind of very anime weeboo type of stuff, like it's that, that's what this game is. So if you're a huge fan of like No More Heroes and stuff like that, like this is very much the same flavor of ice cream, I would say.
That's a good comparison because it falls in that same category of like, what is happening? This looks insane.
There's a lot of that, and like they're really trying to express that there's a world going on in this game, and like I'm not checked out. And I'm laughing a lot. I'm like, this is so ridiculous, And I think that's what they want. Like, it's a fun. Like, they just kind of want you to have fun.
They didn't take themselves too seriously,
No, not really.
No, in the first when you're in like the diner and you're getting introduced kind of to the characters, you'll see that if you think they're really taking this serious, then I think you're dense. Like, these characters are so over the top ridiculous.
Yeah, sounds
like
so to me, my comparison to that would be Bayonetta because that.
Yeah, Bayonetta is another good example of.
But I think Bayonetta knows it's silly. These characters are acting as if this is who they really are.
Yeah, another good.
They aren't aware that they're over the top stupid.
Sure.
This has got like Deadly Premonition vibes too.
Yeah.
Again, like that wacky, weird. You're like everyone's taking it way more seriously than like you are as a player, But in the game, everyone's like really. But that game knows it's weird. You know what I mean? It's not. So while it's taking itself seriously, like it's in on the joke too. The performances are serious, but there's a overlaying joke of everything just being goofy and weird and surreal and stupid. So.
But I mean that can make it fun. That's got that grindhouse flavor to it.
Very much. Grindhouse is a really good.
This game is just a fun. Again, I had my problems with it, and if you have a problem turning it from normal to then take the time to learn the systems, it's possible. But for me, with all the games, I didn't mind turning it down on easy, and I'm finding enjoyment at it. My official review would be, I do not at all regret buying this game. I think it's fun, and it is. I think it's only like 7 or 8 hours long, so it's actually one that you might actually see me say, "Hey, I beat this game," because of the fact that it's shorter. I'll be able to get through it faster.
And I would wait for a sale. Like this is not
That's what I would say.
It's not a $60
Unless
game.
you're like really into this style of game,
Yeah.
this game's gonna drop super fast, and that's what I
so
told.
quick. This game's gonna struggle. This game's gonna sell like dog crap, dude, and like
it really
will
is.
go on sale quick. Yeah.
The reviews didn't help, but I think the highest Metacritic I saw was up to 60 now on I forget which platform.
60.
One platform has it at 60. The other one's just below that. So
Ishin's 82 and Wild Hearts is 79. So all those games are hitting around 80.
And I know it doesn't come out till next week, but Octopath Traveler 2 is at a 84 at the moment. So like there's a lot of good games around it. So like if this were releasing during one of those droughts, and we saw some of that, of course, last year where you would have like 6 weeks of not anything major coming out or more, and then you're like, hey, let me just try out this game because I don't have anything else to play. You know,
they picked in general. This is usually a time.
This is usually a good time. Like yeah.
So they probably were like, hey, we're gonna aim for February 2023.
Yeah.
We'll probably be pretty good, and then all those delays and everything, they're like, okay, shit, we're.
It's like someone who got to the frontier first, and they picked out a spot to build their house, like sweet, and then they built 2 railroad tracks on either side of it, and they're like, crap, crap.
But I think it's fun. I think it's worth
a fun time.
The $20, and
it is, and it's for a very specific audience, like Derek was saying, you know. And just like again, like if you're that niche, like weird gamer like me, who likes No More Heroes or Deadly Premonitions, where you kind of know you're playing a bad game, but there's a lot of charm and you're still having fun, like check this game out. You know,
you guys are keeping it positive.
Like maybe if 5's not wrong, you know, maybe 6's aren't wrong or whatever, you know, but like. I don't know. That's why I think the number system is weird because like it definitely pulls off what it's trying to do, and the gameplay is very smooth and the combat's very like fun and stuff like that. So you know who's to say what a score is?
I actually think that's an interesting
totally
conversation and one that's very difficult to navigate because it's like I agree that this is where I would say objectively this is not a good game. Okay, but for me. So that way, if somebody said this game's a 4 out of 10, I wouldn't be like, that's ridiculous. This is like if somebody said God of War Ragnarok is a 4 out of 10, I have a problem with that. Like I literally get offended and I will want to fight you. If somebody says this game is a 4 out of 10, I'll be like, I get it, I understand, but I still feel like, and again, I've only played an hour, but I kind of get the gist of what this is. I don't feel like this for me is a 6, but everybody knows that my 6s and 7s or what other people say are 6s and 7s. I generally like a lot. I don't mind playing bad games. I think
Derek
fun.
likes 7s more than 9s. It's just the way he lives his life.
Usually my game years.
It's a lucky number. It's a lucky number. Yeah.
That's true. There's something that's a positive spin on it. Yeah.
Very true. Well, speaking of niche games, I don't know if anyone is trying out Blanc, which also landed right around that 70 range. But that's a very niche game. Jeff, what do you think of that one so far?
I think it's not a full price game, right? It's like 20, 30 bucks cheap. In that range.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's why I got it, because I saw the price and I was like, oh, well, then no brainer. Duh. I'll get it.
Practically free.
Because it's indie. So of course. So basically it's $10 per hour that the game is. Because my understanding is I have not gotten that far into it. My understanding is it's a 2-hour game.
Wow.
A little bit over 2 hours.
Is it a co-op game?
It is. It is. Okay. And you know what? Play it co-op, because solo, it kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie. But I love the art style. It's like black and white. You have one character that's like a small dog and one that's like a baby deer, whatever those are called. Bambis.
Fawn?
I don't know what
a fawn.
Fawn.
Sure. Call them Bambis. But so basically, there's the brothers mechanic where if you're playing it solo, you know, one stick controls the dog, the other one controls the deer. Okay. So there is a part where sometimes they flip on the screen, and you have to be like, wait, hold on, I'm too disoriented now.
Yeah.
Which one is controlling which? And there's a jumping button, and like,
jeez,
it's just not very fun. And it is a game that I could see myself like just plowing through because it's 2 hours. It's not a big deal.
So it's basically just like artsy. Like it's
artsy, and it's
that was
cute.
Theatrhythm last year. It's like, boo, this looks good, and then you play it, you're like, oh, it's not fun to play.
Yeah, exactly. Theatrhythm's very bare bones, and this one's very bare bones too, because it's not an action game.
You brought up Brothers, and it gets me excited because I really liked Brothers. I liked
Brothers.
That game's amazing. I talk about people when people cried at Journey. I'm like, bull crap, you didn't play Brothers. Like,
Brother-
because I
yeah,
cried
brother-
so hard during that game, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't cry, but it was good.
He did.
It'll make you emotional.
I feel like Garrett
And it
cries
did.
all the
It
time. He
did.
just doesn't say
And
anything.
it's a
I
good
cry all the time.
game.
I cried when I
I
got my new
cried
car.
today.
I mean, it's not a big deal.
but the gameplay of Brothers is fun. You're saying that the only comparison here is the controls with the
The
sticks.
controls,
if you're
yeah,
playing
the fact
single player.
that Brothers thrived on the whole, you're controlling two people with two different, each joystick, whatever.
Yeah.
And it worked. They find a way to make it work.
Very creative the way they
In
did
this
that.
one, it's
Yeah.
just a little messy and clunky in that
Mhm.
regard. Solo. If I were doing it 2-player, I probably would have a better experience, but I still feel like it would be like, 6 out of 10, because it's not doing a whole lot as a game. So
Okay.
it wouldn't really be like something I would be, singing
Okay.
the praises of by the end of the year or whatever.
Okay.
I'd be like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that game came out. I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's
Especially
games
in
that
February.
there's games that where
Yeah.
the art style catches my attention, and this is one of them. There's another
Oh, man.
one.
I love the art style.
There's another one where you're like this little frog. It's coming out soon, where you're a frog you can only travel through the shadows. It's called like Morph. It's like a one word. No, it's called Shim. It's like a one word name.
It sounds
It's-
intriguing.
but you're like this little bouncy creature that has to stay in the
Shimmer.
shadows, but it's like this hand drawn like animation and art style.
Yeah, I love that
will
stuff.
grab my attention. I think it's Shem. S
SCHIM. I found it.
SCHIM. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just got a really cool looking art style to that.
Yeah,
one,
the
too.
art style is like
Okay.
Game Boy-ish.
Yeah.
In the color schemes, where it's like dark, like green, diarrhea green, and
Oh,
like
sure. Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
bright orange, and like very much reminds me of old Game Boy aesthetics.
It's almost
But
like, hey,
it's
what
like-
if we made
it's
what if we
2
made
plus
Frogger as an art
2.5D.
project? It's like Frogger art project basically.
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
anyway, all that to say, I saw Blanc and I thought kind of the same thing. Like, oh, is this going to be kind of like Bambi, Fox and the Hound, sad story mixed with some really cool art? And maybe it is. I don't know.
Maybe it is. Yeah, I just need
Oh.
to find somebody to. I mean, if you get it, let me know so we can just
Okay.
two player it if we
All right.
can do it.
All right.
can't
If we
wait-
can do it
can't wait
online,
to
if you
hear,
can't do it online, then this
Oh.
game is screwed. I'm never gonna play it.
Yeah. What the heck? That'd be crazy.
Yeah, if it's only couch co-op, I'm screwed.
I think this one also kind of landed, in the high 60s on Metacritic. Not that that matters, but just for some context of like
Yeah.
how it's being received.
Right.
I think the problem with, and we could get into this discussion in a totally different episode, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents out there. I like a number system when it's truly reflective of whether or not they hit what they're trying to do. I don't like it when you're criticizing a game because it doesn't do what you wish it did instead. So like
Yeah.
sometimes
right,
the number
right.
system works and I like it. And sometimes I hate it because it's like, well, you're crushing this game and you shouldn't be. So like I see both sides of it.
Right.
But,
definitely.
I feel like
I'm
a
in the
game
same
like
boat.
this or Trek to Yomi, those are good examples where the number system works. It's like, no, they landed at about the right spot. Like it is not doing well what it's trying to do.
I
Right.
think the number system only, again, we don't have to go on a long tangent. I think it only works when you use it in the basis of like 50 reviews or something like that. I'm picking
Yeah,
a high
yeah.
number. Meaning, I don't like if one person bashes it wrongly, you usually have another one to over compliment it, and they
Right.
usually even themselves out. And so you usually get the gist of like, so when you're like, hey, the Metacritic currently with 30 reviews is at an 82, then I generally have an idea this is a good game, and usually it becomes true. So that's when I think it works.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't work when, again, like you said, if somebody's playing, for instance, Wanted Dead, and they're like, well, I wanted a better characters, better writing. I thought this would be a more current type gen game, and this is like 2 or 3 generations behind it, and they punish it for that and that only. Then that's when it's like unfair.
I would make the argument that there's probably about 10% of games per year that have an unfair Metacritic average for whatever reason. It
Mhm.
could be too few reviews, but they threw a score on there anyway. It could be that people,
Yeah, all
in
they need is
general,
4, right?
right. And so
Yeah.
like I think last year we had a few big examples. We've already talked about Gotham Knights and Saints Row, and there's a few that were like, well, this is kind of an unfair score based on what I'm experiencing. Like I don't feel like that score is correct. So
Right.
I feel like that happens. It's about
That's a good point.
10% of games per year, maybe a dozen games out of 120 that release in a year are like, yeah, that don't look at that score. Ignore that. Same with Rotten Tomatoes. It's like it can be a good indicator, but it's not always spot on. Like there are
Oh,
times.
we're
when...
gonna talk about the score in a bit. Let me tell you.
All
Let me
right.
tell you something, brother.
Looking forward to that. All right. Well, let's talk. Has anyone played the Tales of Symphonia remastered game that just dropped.
No,
I have it on
but-
PC, so I don't know.
Yeah, I have it on PC too, so I'm
But,
like
Tales of
it's the same
Symphonia-
game. It's the same version, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Gotcha.
so it's based off of the PS2 run. I was hearing murmurs about people being upset because it's based off of the PS2 version, which apparently is capped at 30. People are like upset that it doesn't go up to 60. So, other than that gripe,
Really important this game.
Unplayable.
This game?
Unplayable.
here. Shut up.
Turn-based RPG must be 60.
well, it's not even like
if for a first-person shooter or open world, like
Sure.
I get it, guys. You want it to be 60 frames per second. I get it, everybody. I kind of want it to be as well, But for a game like this, like
Yeah,
this game came out like
combat-
100 years ago.
it's like
Who
being mad at
cares?
Fire Emblems at 30.
well, the combat is not.
Yeah,
much,
exactly,
it's not so
yeah.
much turn-based.
I
You are,
can't walk
like-
around the Sommelier or whatever
You're
it's
in
called.
the
at
little
60 frames per
arenas.
second.
Wait,
Yeah.
It's not turn-based, Dan. I might
It's
be.
not
No.
turn-based.
Yeah, so if you played,
not,
if you
no,
had played,
no.
if you played Arise, Tim, so just think of like a kind of a more restrictive Arise. So
Okay.
you're kind of more of on a linear plane, but you can move around. I think.
Yeah, like you're not, is because it's that old, but it's not full
It's like a
360
little fighting
degrees.
game.
Yeah, you're
Right.
kind of on
Alright,
planes
then
that you can
I
run.
was off
But
on the type of game, but
But as
still.
far as
But still, you don't need that
Still
type
doesn't
of.
change the
You don't need
fact
that type of frame rate
I
for
will
that. So
say
you were
that
still spot on. Tim,
30
like,
frames per second is not a big deal.
yeah.
This type of
Um,
gameplay doesn't need that type of frame rate.
As
so
far as the Tales series, in my opinion, this is still the best one of the classic
great.
ones.
story-wise,
I
character-wise.
really love Arise. I think Arise is like a new, like, good direction that they're taking the series. But yeah, as far
Better
as
cliffs.
yes, the cliffs are unbelievable. Just that's actually why I wasn't here the past two episodes.
Staring
at
So-
cliffs.
Just admiring cliffs.
I'm still
Yeah,
waiting on that.
If you were going to
top
go to
10
Mount
clips,
Rushmore, your head would
list,
explode.
Dan.
What is this?
If you went to Norway, my God, dude, you would have to bring.
You'd never come
changes
back.
of pants.
Yeah.
Listen, fuck real
Look
cliffs.
at the
I want
cliffs on
fake
her.
cliffs.
I want fake cliffs. All
Jeez.
right, so
This game is great. Like, please play this game if you've
Yeah,
never
if you've
played
never
it.
played it, it's a good time, and like a Switch would be a great place to play this game because it feels right
Because
for
you're
that type
used
of
to 30
over
frames
game.
per second.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
well, it's interesting too that this is
Norm.
another one where it's just for some reference, it is below 70 on the Metacritic for this particular
Because
version.
they're mad about
Yeah.
the PS2 version. That's why.
Yeah.
I'll have to-
There's some weird hatred going on. For
There are
the
some
version of it
reviewers-
is.
Some reviewers that I trust though, so I'm going to check out some of the reviews to see like what's keeping it from being scored higher on some. But
Yeah,
And
to
I
be fair,
like it
haven't
does
done
when
the
you go back
research.
because I played on PC like just maybe a few months ago, like
Uh-huh.
on my Steam Deck. Like it's old, you know what I mean? So it
Gotcha.
feels
Yeah,
old,
yeah.
and like it's
it doesn't say remake, right? It says remastered. So
It's a
people need to
yeah.
chill.
It's so it's like it's a product of its time for sure. So
The problem is you get stuff like Metroid Prime Remastered, and people are expecting that level of remastery, and it's like, well
Well,
not
and then-
every.
that's just another explanation of good game design because all these years later, it still works. And I know they changed like the button layout and stuff like that, but it's still
I think that's the
primarily the
biggest
same
thing.
game, and it's still
And it
holds up,
works, yeah,
Whereas maybe
yeah.
this plane based action RPG,
Yeah.
style of maybe it doesn't hold up that well,
Yeah, good- that's a good
which I
point.
think is another reason why it's getting lower reviews.
Good
So
point. Well, another game that re-released on a new platform is Returnal, hitting PC. It's the first time it's on a non-PS5 platform. Derek, did you end up buying
is this at 60 frames? Do we know?
Oh, it's definitely 60.
Oh,
Thank
I got
God,
it
everybody.
I've got it at 80
Ugh.
frames per second. Yeah, I did. I played it a little bit today. I was actually having issues with my PC. It wasn't just on Returnal, but my PC, for some reason, is saying that everything's playing at native 4K, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, this game looks really, really ugly. And it happened on Ishin, and it happened on Returnal, and it happened on Wild Hearts. And at first I didn't notice, like I noticed the downgrade, but I was like, oh, maybe the games are just really ugly. But as soon as I booted up Returnal, I was like, no, something's wrong.
Eternal's
Like,
not
it's-
ugly, yeah.
Is my monitor broke? What's
Yeah,
going
it's
on?
not
Everything's
ugly, yeah.
saying 4K. I fixed it, but basically this game looks amazing. Apparently there are, this is going to surprise people, issues with the port to PC.
No.
There is
Not on the
stuttering.
Master Race system. No way.
Yeah. We never have
Wow.
issues. We never have issues, even though I'm booting up.
Even though
several
you,
games at
Derek,
1080p,
you
it
started
says 4K.
you started your what you were saying with the phrase that I've heard not just from you but from so many of us, and I include myself, who play PC, and that is, well, my PC, I don't know what was going on, but ... like whatever,
Yeah.
and then whatever follows. Like there's
Sure.
always something happening with
Yeah.
PCs.
it's weird. But this game, it looks great. I mean, it's Returnal. So if you played it on the PS5, it's the same version. They didn't change anything. It's just now available on PC. So yeah, I did get it at 4K, and it does have now I'm forgetting RTX or whatever. So I turned all the bells and whistles on, like ray tracing, everything, and I was getting still 80 frames per second in the beginning area. I didn't play a lot. So it runs really good. It looks good. It's fun to play. It's something I bought it because even though I kind of bitched about it on the PS5, I still loved my 10 hours with it.
Same.
So I wanted to play this game again, and I heard they've made some updates as far as making it a little bit easier, or you can
Like
play it with
checkpoints
co-op.
or something.
Heck
Yeah,
easier.
So I want to do that.
Listen, if you need my help, because I'm the only one out of all of us that
You don't play on PC. You're the only one that buys like a high-end PC and then doesn't use it.
I'm just saying. I mean, I can help you.
Dan, I don't know if I ever told you this. I'm not going to spoil it for everybody else, but every once in a while I'll go back and my buddy's like slowly running me through that game.
Oh, really?
And I got all the way up to and I don't want to spoil anything, but the Don't Fear the Reaper part, the boss fight, and everything like that.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things I've ever done in a co-op game.
The boss fights in that game are like insane. Like they're just.
So
I suck so bad at that game, and he gets so frustrated with me all the time. He's like, "Dude, can you not?" I just
stand in the corner and flick the light switch up and down and let me kill everybody.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask, how does the co-op work? Can you play with more than one person, or? I
think it's just one person, and then you go into one person's game. Like I don't,
So it's just two people running.
But
together.
Is it like Souls, where if you die, you gotta like reconnect, or is it played like a co-op game where like if you die, it ends and you reboot with the other person still?
Can you revive each other? I forget now that I
have no idea.
I think you can share lives and stuff like that. So I think it's a little easier. But like usually if one person gets wiped, the other person's gonna get wiped right behind them. Usually, that's so. But I've died plenty of times, and then he has beaten the boss, and then we went on to fight another day. So it's like I forget what the revival system was though.
Okay.
So
many blue orbs flying at you. So many.
It's hard, but
it's just so hard.
Much fun.
Like,
it's so much fun.
It's like gameplay perfection. Like it's perfect in the way that it plays, but like.
My
it really wants you to be good at that game, and like I am just not a pro gamer.
Well,
so.
and games like that,
the randomness.
It
don't like
introduce
that
just an element of bad luck where you can be really good, but enough bad luck.
We had a lot of bad runs, me and my buddy, and he's just like, dude, that one for once it wasn't your fault. That we just had a bad run.
Yeah,
that
run.
We just every room we went into, like there was not a good gun, there was not a good drop. The worst enemies are spawning in there, so that level of randomness is pretty crappy, I'd say.
Yeah, I lucked
still
out
a great game. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Great game.
All right, cool. Another quick one I wanted to highlight, just briefly. They re-released Pharaoh, which was probably like a 20-ish-year-old.
The Xbox game?
No, it's a city builder. Like it's like a city builder RTS. But it was kind of. If you ever played Caesar 3, or there was a game called Zeus, and it had an add-on called Poseidon, which I really liked, and Pharaoh. So they were all kind of made by, I think it was called Impression Games, maybe. Anyway,
this legit looks like SimCity, but like Egypt.
Yeah, so it's a very simple isometric grid-based city builder. So if you like those kind of things where it's very you create everything in very kind of quick and easy, clean boxes and rectangles, and it's just. It's a throwback. This is a remake of that, and I loved those games. So I grabbed this and I played that a little bit this week. So
I loved SimCity back in the day.
It's the folks who made it are the ones who made this game called Lethis Path of Progress, which I think is pretty fun. Similar thing where it's very grid based. Everything snaps to a little grid, and they make it very easy for you. But it's very much make your citizens happy and grow your city. Their houses will improve, then add new features, and you unlock. It's just that kind of a thing. But it's just in ancient Egypt. Kind of setting. So there you go. Yeah. Pharaoh, A New Era. I think that's it for games for now. We can talk about other stuff. We can touch on that at the end. Things we're continuing to play. Additional thoughts on that. Anything else new gaming wise that I missed before we talk about a few things that were watched recently? Anybody else play anything new this week? Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of new releases.
Yeah, I think that was all.
Too many. Yeah,
maybe too many. Maybe
it's not over yet. It's not over.
So we talked last week about Last of Us Episode 4. and touched briefly on episode 5 because a couple folks had watched it because it had just released right before we recorded, so they were able to sneak in a viewing of episode 5. I think we've all caught up on episode 5 by now, right? Is everyone caught up on it?
I'm still on 3.
Oh, yeah.
I finished 3. That was the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have to get to. We never spoil it. I don't think any of our
How are you a
conversations have
pony?
truly.
Unbelievable, dude.
How is this guy?
I'm surprised
even
he's
on
watching
our
it at
show?
all because usually he doesn't watch anything week
That's-
to week.
yes,
so I'm just
exactly.
happy.
Kyle,
I'm
that's
damn
true.
happy.
True.
Dude.
That's a good point. I'm happy.
Kyle's keeping it P today,
I know,
guys.
this
I like
is
it.
a
I'm
little
over here
too
keeping it
P.
P, guys.
Keeping
Can
it
we
positive.
please shame him, please?
Kyle, thank you
Okay.
for showing us your P.
Keeping it P. All
I
right, well,
got a good P.
Warm pee.
I just want to say this, like, for the this is like the halfway point, kind of, because it's a 9-episode show, so not really halfway point, but we're just past the halfway point now,
Yeah.
and we truly have seen the capability of these showrunners and these creators to create a spectacle visually, as well as what they've already been doing with characters and storytelling. That is just, there's nothing like it. Like they've created something that is just top tier. I shouldn't say there's nothing like it, but there's very few other shows like it. I should say that.
Yeah.
And they're just delivering, man. And I thought that the set pieces and the action that they introduced, especially in the final act of this episode, I a couple times was like, "Whoa!" Like I think I said it out
Yeah.
loud as I'm watching it alone. You know,
I said aloud to myself, boy, this show looks expensive. Like maybe 3 times during this episode. Oh, man, this show looks very
Well, that cost
expensive.
a lot.
Kyle's just seeing the dollar signs.
Yeah.
But without spoiling too much, if you saw episode 4, you know we got introduced to some characters from. Even if you followed casting, you know these characters are going to be in here from the game, and Henry and Sam. And I just want to say that I thought the casting for that was perfect. Some of the tweaks they made to those characters were amazing and fit so well.
Mhm.
And honestly, I was maybe even more sad this time around as their story unfolded, just because I liked them even more. But I don't know.
Punches are hurting harder in this
They
show.
are,
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
The
They're really
changes they're making are basically just meant to make you sadder. If you played the games, like
for sure.
Yeah,
because it's like I was
really
really
like-
sad
like-
about the games, the way that some characters' fates played out. And
Yeah.
now the show is playing those fates out in like a fresh way, even if it's just a minor change, like making
We're adding extra
Sam,
context.
making Sam
you know?
deaf. Like
Yeah.
you're like, what the hell? You're making it sadder. You're making it more
Yeah.
tragic. Like
I just remember the whole episode. I was like, "Oh, they're making it hurt more. Oh,
Yeah.
they're making it hurt more." Yeah, just like,
Derek, what were you gonna
Well,
say?
I was just gonna say, like, I liked these characters from the game. I thought the characters
too.
were well acted. I
Yeah.
think they
this is
brought a lot.
this is a big part of the game.
Yeah.
This is one of the most memorable
and
parts. of the game.
that's what I was gonna say is like their part in the game is definitely a lot, or at least I believe it's a lot longer than Bill's. And even though they're only really in the show for 1 episode, I didn't feel like they were shortchanged. Like I feel like I got to know them, and then the change was definitely a good change as far as like we were talking about. It gives more of an emotional impact, especially with Sam having his disability and the way they connect, like the way they keep showing. Why am I forgetting her name? Ellie connecting with her and the bond they quickly.
Oh yeah.
Which is, by the way, it's believable. So you know how they'll like force things and rush things and go, "Hey, these 2 characters really care about each other, and you should care about."
Just buy
them caring
into it
about
because
each
we're
other.
telling you
Please
to.
buy
Yeah.
in. But this is more believable because his disability and the fact that I don't know how you guys are, even though I come across as a jerk. If I meet somebody like that, I'm going to be more empathetic, more sympathetic, and kinder and gentler because those people in general are usually kinder and gentler as well. But I think there's also a part of us, I think it's organic, that we feel like almost like I feel bad for that person. So I want to help them or I want to be there for them. And so I felt like that relationship and that bond and the fact that they're just 2 kids in this terrible world was believable. So then you had that weight there because you now know Ellie really cares about Sam. And spoilers, I'm not going to say it, but if you played the game, you know what's going to happen to Sam. So it did make it harder because I'm like, you guys are making a lot of changes. Why don't you make a change here? You know, I like these guys. Make a change here. But I really like that. And then
I was holding out hope, Derek, that they're like one of the things at the end would be like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. Like I don't know why.
Maybe they'll turn it around. Yeah.
I mean, there was quite the substantial difference with the Bill story there. So
yeah.
know?
That's still the biggest deviation yet, and everything else has been pretty, maybe elaborated on and maybe some contextual changes and stuff like that. But you're hitting a lot of similar beats in kind of these last couple episodes.
My friends have a new little friend who is deaf, and so they've been learning sign. And so having a character who, and if you watch the after show kind of behind the scenes, it truly is a deaf actor who's got an ASL director on set with him, and all the others. They were talking about, just briefly, they talk about how everyone on set was learning sign and trying to everyone wanted to communicate. It's just very kind of a sweet thing to add on, the real life element of this, which I thought was very cool. So I liked that a lot, but I think so far they've shown us 2 other pairs outside of Joel and Ellie that are foils for them that I think is super interesting. We've had Bill and Frank, where you have Bill as the gruff, don't let anyone in emotionally protector. And then of course Frank ends up helping him to open up and kind of be more of a complete human, not just this F everybody, let me live alone. So that was that story is now, I know it sounds crazy, but it's making even more sense to me as I'm seeing Joel and Ellie's characters evolve in this TV show. I'm starting to understand a little more of why they did what they did in the show. They're kind of giving us some foils for those 2, which I love. Takes me back to literature class in college. It takes me back to those kind of days where they talk about foil characters.
Did you have a writing degree? Is that
I do. Do you not have one? Oh my gosh!
You have an online writing degree?
I definitely don't.
So
but it's just it's cool to see that stuff unfold because we got to see, and Frank brought in lightness and a reminder of enjoying life and enjoying relationship, and that loving is okay. And that's what I think Ellie is to Joel. I thought that was a cool comparison between those 2. And now we see it again with Henry and Sam, with their relationship, where you've got the protector and we're now seeing a glimpse of someone who's willing to do whatever it takes and has truly done some dark stuff and betrayed other humans in order to protect someone that they love. They decided, I'm just going to prioritize this person over everyone else, truly prioritize them. So that's another foil for Joel, where it's going to be another element of all right, it's okay to open yourself up to love someone again, even though Joel had closed himself off for a good 20 years. He's finally letting himself kind of love someone in that way again. Once a dad, always a dad, kind of. And now he's kind of we got a little picture of, someone did some crazy stuff to protect someone they love. So it's just these cool little glimpses, man. I love.
You also have Catherine, who's the leader of that city or whatever, who is so obsessed with getting revenge that she loses everything because of it, which is a kind of a parallel, a kind of Ellie's journey in the second game.
You mean her morality, how she's just saying things aloud that straight up a villain would say, because of how much
a lot of children died.
Yeah, exactly. Because just how much revenge is driving her actions, basically.
Yes.
She's no longer a person at one point. Yeah, they're really doing a great job with the foreshadowing of the tragedy that all the people that have played the games know that is coming for both Joel and Ellie. By adding all these extra characters that are kind of having similar journeys, but in a different part of the world, or similar moral journeys, I guess.
Yeah,
and it's a great show. Think of the ending and how it played out.
It was so chaotic, and it was some of the best chaos that I've ever seen shot. Especially for a TV show.
Chaos.
It was just. I don't want to give away too much because I think seeing is very fun, and if Dan hasn't seen it yet, probably a lot of people haven't.
It was a good reminder of the threat they're all facing.
Yeah. It's
for episode 5.
The threat. Yeah, the threat has been very people heavy for a few episodes. It's nice to be reminded hey, there's monsters out there too.
Yes.
So it was a good reminder of that threat, but I also think it was a good reminder the very end scene. So as things quieted back down. But then, you've got the culmination of Sam and Henry's story. That was a good reminder of there's not a whole lot in life for everyone that's still alive to live for. And so if you lose that thing, there's literally nothing left. You look around and everything's desolate and empty and there's no one and nothing left.
Well,
so that hopelessness when you do lose, if you choose to love someone and support each other and you lose, one of you loses the other one, dude, like that hopelessness rang really strongly at the end there, and you kind of see it in Ellie's journey in that episode too, where you see her kind of become a kid for a little bit, and then that changes by the end again. It's just, I don't know, it's all sad but so well done. So
yeah, I think she's gonna be this one in particular is gonna take a harder toll on her for sure. Maybe even more so than in the game.
The usage of the flip pad at the end actually made me. I actually went.
Like same. I mean, and it's lining up perfectly for what happens with Tommy. You know, where he's all too quick in the game to like dump her on Tommy just ASAP. Like, get this person away from me. You know what I mean? So it's like they set up future things to hurt more too, because the show's just really good at that.
I'm pretty sure based on the trailer, that's this episode.
We have to like it. Just like how many episodes are left and what we need to get to. Like this has to be Tommy.
This is the Tommy thing, and
the next
probably
episode's
the
Winter.
scene. The scene that we're gonna get with "Don't Tell Me You Have No Idea What Loss Is." Yeah, we're gonna get that whole thing.
Yeah, the preview did show a reuniting of the brothers, which is cool. Looking forward to that.
I'm excited. Tommy's,
I did want to say
that actor's amazing. So
you guys are probably already listening to this. I'm probably way behind on just now catching up on this week, but there is an official Last of Us podcast where Troy Baker interviews Craig Maslin and Neil. I'm blanking out Neil's last name.
Druckmann.
Thank you. I almost said Blomkamp is where my mind went.
Neil Blomkamp.
That'd be a good podcast too.
I would listen to that.
Yeah, I would listen to that. Okay, but
anyway,
so
direct an episode.
You guys probably listened to this already, but it's just also some really excellent insights into a lot of this stuff, and it helped me confirm, like, are they doing this? Am I right? And I listened to it, and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what they're doing. That's awesome. And just hearing and some of the ideas they had that they tabled, by the way, that alone is worth listening, because some of the things they thought about doing.
I would listen to that. Yeah. I want to hear some of that. Yeah,
I know that
some of the miserable stuff they left off.
You know what? I just want to tell you this one, which I thought was really cool.
Death scene, like in this last episode, that they were like, "Yeah, we can't do that."
yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, child clicker. That's new and terrifying, right? The way she crawls like a spider, like yikes.
Oh, anyway. Exorcist shit. Like,
the way she kind of like flips over.
Ooh.
She's like a contortionist, but she's like a 5-year-old kid.
She's got like jammies on, so she's got a clicker face. That's terrifying.
That's terrifying.
New nightmare unlocked. Yeah.
One of the ideas that they had actually moved, like, anyway, they talk about it. I'll describe it in the podcast. It's really good. But they talked about wanting to use the opening menu of the Last of Us games with the open window with the thing blowing, and they almost they wanted to have, for the streaming experience, like press start. Like they thought about having it like the game.
I heard about that. Every episode was going to start on a window,
but it was going to be a different window based on where the show has gone, and like they actually have some footage of different windows, and that came up as they were discussing episode 3 with Bill and Frank's window, the final shot there. But anyway, they talked about like how that's such an iconic element to The Last of Us universe, I guess, is this window with the wind blowing the curtains. But anyway, I thought that was like, that was to me, that's like, oh, that's a cool creative idea. I can also see why you didn't do that, because that might have been a little too like on the nose.
It's gimmicky. It's cool.
It's a little too gimmicky
though.
To me.
Yeah. I enjoy the concept of it. I'm glad they didn't do that.
I think it's the kind of thing you put on a DVD or Blu-ray, I guess, set. Yeah. Put it on there. But not.
Give me all the windows. Give me all the windows.
Yeah. Friggin' loving this show, man. Absolutely loving it. So I'm looking forward to replaying the game on PC again next month too. I'm
replaying it right now, and I'm all the way past the Bill stuff. And there's like a scene where you're traversing through his town or whatever with all like the clickers and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, this game's still stressful. I was trying to play it as like my kind of I just want to play something real quick kind of game. And I was like, oh, this ended up being really involving and stressful. So.
Well, it is. By the way, that podcast is cool because they talk a lot about what you can and can't do in a TV show or a movie versus a game, where in a game you can't do everything you're doing in a show because your players are going to get bored. They need to push buttons and take action, and there needs to be gameplay. And on the other side, you can't just have nonstop action in a show. You have to develop characters and make you care and have dialogue. So like, it's really cool to hear these two awesome creators they put their minds together. There's like a mind melt for this thing. It's really neat. It's too bad more of these kind of adaptations can't happen, man. Because
I hope they start happening. Like get Kojima making like a Death Stranding, something like get all these people to direct.
Get him to meld together with someone who is an accomplished like
like Guillermo del Toro or any of his other buddies or something. Yeah.
I mean, Kyle, the Metal Gear movie is finally happening. So
they've been saying that for the last 4 years, and I know the Kong Skull Island guy's attached to it, and I know he's got Seven Sky. I follow all that stuff. It's
Kyle's not buying any of it.
It's so baloney. Like it's never gonna get picked up.
Kyle,
Oscar Isaac really wants it to happen, dude.
And Oscar Isaac is up. Yeah.
Yes, Oscar. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. But it sounds like the Death Stranding project is actually moving forward quicker.
Yes. Probably because
I think that's what he cares about right now.
Yeah.
They'll probably cast Chris Pratt in there too somewhere.
No, God.
All right.
Please. Like they cast Chris Pratt instead of the dude Norman Reedus.
Hold on. Chris
right there.
Like
Chris Pratt as Liquid.
Why did you call me?
As Liquid, yeah. Chris is Liquid.
Yeah, Kyle, Chris Pratt as Liquid.
Yeah. I hate
Come
that.
on.
I hate everything
I
about
hate
it.
it. I hate it so much. All right. Let's talk about the newest Marvel movie. Again, we're gonna keep it spoiler free. I think we kept episode 5 stuff spoiler free ish. Like whatever. Sorry if we spoiled a little bit, but if
I think I spoiled a little bit, and I shouldn't have. But
whatever.
I don't know. I mean, we only spoiled stuff that was in the game. I felt like so.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Is it Quantumania? Is it
Quantum? Ant-Man. Wasp,
Wow.
Quantumania.
I like the name. Not fitting, but I like.
2 of you have seen it. One of you, so Jeff and Kyle have seen it. Derek's planning on seeing it this weekend.
Monday.
I don't have any plans to see it in theaters. Dan, I don't know about you if you're planning.
Yeah, I've been doing that like less and less because fuck people. So.
Oh, it's just going on Monday.
I had a few of those F people moments in this showing too, where like, why would you buy a movie ticket to go and just watch your phone the whole time?
Yep.
Why do you do that? Like,
wow.
That's
really annoying.
That's why
it's
theaters
right. Like the
play that
phone's
whole
always too
thing
bright.
to tell you
It's
not
too
to do that. I don't know why people don't.
There's like a 10-minute trailer to tell you not to do that. So
they should start doing what they did at
the
the Bill Burr show. They had us put our phones in those sealed
in the
things
baggies,
that you have to like have unlocked.
They don't have
it's so much manpower.
Can they do that? Can they do that over their heads? Like
no, it literally takes one person. Like as you walk in, your phone goes in there and it locks. There's just one person at a desk, and when you walk out, they have to unlock it for you.
Tim, what I'm trying to say is I want people to shut up. So you put a bag over their head to shut
up. Let me contribute to Dan's point. There were definitely in the last few movies that I've seen where it's more than just 3 people, because sometimes I see movies that are smaller. Whenever there's more people in a showing, people are just talking at full volume now. Like,
yeah.
Not even trying to be like
why are you spending money?
It's like, hey, see that shit? Like,
this is not your sofa. Like, we're all taking a pact of silence right now.
Don't ever go to a theater that my kids are going to be attending because they won't. I'm like, guys, stop talking.
Yeah.
But they're kids. It's a little different. But still, it's annoying.
But Tim, you're part of the problem. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm part of the problem. All right, guys. So Ant-Man and the Wasp. We haven't talked about the movie yet. Quantumania. Apparently, Kang's in this. What do you think about this movie?
I call it Quantumania because it's Ant-Man.
Anyway,
because it's got Ant-Man in it. Anyway,
that was a really missed opportunity, by the way.
We're not going to dive into it too much because we're gonna do like a spoiler section and theories and all that stuff on Current Cinema.
Sweet.
But yeah, we're definitely gonna give our impressions on it and what we liked. But like, I mean, yes, it's the Kang show, man. It's Jonathan Majors' movie. Not entirely, because like the first, I want to say hour, they spend a lot of time talking about him and building him up. And then when he does show up, it's like it feels like it's on.
It's not like how Thanos is in Guardians of the Galaxy, heavy quotation marks. How he's like in like 2 scenes. Jonathan Majors in a lot of this movie.
So.
How long's the movie?
2 hours.
Like 2 hours, yeah.
Okay. Actually, if you stay for post credits, it's 2, which I recommend you do. It's 2 hours and 5 minutes. So yeah. But post credits is fantastic. Like actually, both the mid credits and the post credits are like
some of the best in years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
so Jonathan Majors is the highlight here. It sounds like, right? Jonathan.
Oh my God,
dude!
Highlight. He is so good that
it
made me like, the humor is hit and miss, but
hits and misses. When we were talking more, I was like, I probably was laughing more than I thought I was, but my theater was dead quiet during all of it. Like people were not into this movie in my theater.
I was next to 2 people that were definitely talkers, but they weren't like, the movie was so loud that I couldn't hear it, but I did hear the sounds they were making during some of it, and it sounded like they were dragged to the movie or they felt obligated to go see another MCU movie. And guys, if you don't like MCU movies by this point, Just stop. Just don't anymore.
I want to see this movie and I had to talk myself into going, and you're the asshole who shows up who doesn't want to be there anyway.
Yeah, and you're just going up.
Yeah. You keep going just so you can complain about it. They're gonna keep making them. So if you want them to reboot or redo or rethink,
but also shut up. More. Also shut up. Yes, you're at the movies. But anyway, so I
comedy's
guess
hit or miss, though.
We can kind of like, I guess people might not have seen the trailers, but what's in the trailers, I can talk about that. Story wise, it's Ant-Man's daughter, Scott's daughter, Cassie, who is now, she's played by a 26-year-old, but I think she's supposed to be like 19 in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Because the actor looks young enough. She has been getting into
actors 3 times, by the way, right? For Cassie?
Yes. Yeah. She has been getting very science-y in her own right, in a sense that she's been doing it behind like Scott's back and stuff, and like she's been getting help from like Hank and Hope, like how to do how to look into the quantum realm stuff. And then as the trailers show you, she creates like a satellite that's sending a signal to the quantum realm and back up. And as soon as Janet, which is Hope's mom, Michelle Pfeiffer, as soon as she finds out like it's an actual signal, sending a signal down, she's like, shut it off, but it's too late. It's too late. They get sucked into the quantum realm. And so really it is one of those stories that we've seen actually in the MCU several times, where the main characters that we know as a team get split up and in a world that they're not familiar with, and they have to find a way to reunite while also stopping a potentially multiverse-ending threat. So, I mean, we've seen this formula before, and I think that's where people, especially critics, are like kind of over the same plot beats.
Yeah, it's super formulaic,
Yeah, and when you're a critic,
of the mold.
When you're a critic, I get it, because you put your critic hat on and you got to be critical. Like, that's your thing.
Yeah.
Even if you love a movie, you got to be very specific about what you loved. So the critics are just lambasting this, and we talked about Rotten Tomatoes scores and how like it's at like 48 now. The audience score is 84. 84.
Yeah, like look at that. Yeah, it's a pretty.
Look at that
gap.
disparity, man. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
That's a good example of one that maybe that's not the most accurate critic score to lean on.
And honestly, like Kyle and I rated this movie the same on Letterboxd, which is, I still love that tool, by the way, that website. We both went like 3.5 out of 5 because like this movie, we went in probably both of us going, oh, the critics hate it, so it's probably trash, right? Like it's probably like worse than Love and Thunder. I liked it more than Love and Thunder. Like I came away from it like with a lot of the jokes did land for me. Some of them were like, oh, shut up. But a lot of them did land for me. And there's one in particular that started very early on that didn't play like a joke, and it involves a character and a character reveal. And then the more the movie goes along, the more along the ride I was for the joke, you know, like I feel like that's more of a writing issue where like they didn't really know how they were going to handle them when they introduced them. And then by the end of the movie, I was like, oh, this is a joke. This is 100% a joke. And it's really funny. Kyle and I will get definitely more specific on who I'm talking about, but it's definitely an aspect of the movie that I've seen very polarizing reactions on. That Kyle, you've probably seen the same thing, right? Like, I think you shared a post. I barely
know what you're talking about because
you shared a post with me. It's the thing that you shared a post with me about where somebody was like, "This person has always been stupid." Like,
yeah, I know what you're. Okay, I know. Right. I was thinking that's what you were talking about, but
I'm trying to dance around it because some people might not even know he's in it.
My journey was the same way with that character, where I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. All right, it's kind of funny.
All right.
Some jokes just work really well, but I don't even want to recite them because those could be the only jokes that work in the movie for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to talk about those. But Jonathan Majors, for sure, like, this dude is straight up one of the best actors working today. Like, I feel like every single movie I see him in, even Devotion, which on its surface is kind of like a bland war drama, he elevates the material so much. He does the same exact thing here. It's just sells.
Like the MCU is set. Like they got a good one. Like
and he's not out there hamming it up. He's not like Nick Caging or anything. He just
thank God
he doesn't overcommit. He commits the perfect degree to where he's like a believable. Like he's not human. I think he's alien or whatever. But it's just believable. The entire performance is
right
perfect.
because that's
There's so many different versions. There are human versions. I don't know what his absolute origin story is. So
and I feel like they're gonna reserve that because this character, Jonathan Majors, could show up in like 5 other movies as a main villain before the Avengers movie because of the variants, right? So like I feel like we're gonna wait until we get Prime Kang and his backstory and like where he came from. We're definitely gonna get that last minute probably.
Do they?
And there has to be a king in
enter-
the universe we're in already too, you know,
Yeah.
which like this king isn't from this, you know, this universe. So you have no idea where he's from.
Yeah, he gives you very, very tiny pieces of what the truth actually is to what happened to him.
But it's like
yeah.
it's. I'd also call this movie like imperative watching, you know. And I'm not dumping on the movie. I'm about to say I actually enjoy this movie, but like if you were like, hey, I need to catch up real quick. What are some of the movies? Like Black Widow wouldn't be a movie because it doesn't move anything forward at all. You know what I mean? This movie moves things forwards in a very huge way. You know, maybe not as much as like Civil War, you know, where like that changed everything and like every movie was kind of response to Civil War.
Is the reason
or
they
Winter
lost
Soldier
in Infinity War,
yeah, like and Winter Soldier is kind of like another one where it kind of changes the whole fact. This is very much of that class of like cascading changes and movement forward and like the overall plot. So that felt good too, because like last phase, which we've all kind of voiced here,
for that, right?
didn't really do that. You know what I mean? Even the one that was about multiverse, like the Doctor Strange one, I really enjoyed that movie, but it's like it didn't like we ended kind of where we began with that movie.
Yeah, he was like, okay, we're good, guys. We're
all right, well,
Yep,
I guess I used the book, and I'm kind of weird now. You know?
I'm kind of weird.
This movie, like by the time this movie ends, you're like, oh man, things are like, you know, the stakes are high, and I don't think the reviews reflect that very well because the stakes of where we are by the end of this movie feel like big and like
they really do.
Oh, we have to like this has got to be a stopped threat or like things are gonna like really get out of hand here. Which even like Thanos didn't feel like that. Like he would just show up every once in a while and be like, yeah, I'm the bad guy, and you're like,
you know what?
I only know that because I read the comics.
Look
you know?
at my chin.
You know what didn't help Thanos?
Good chin.
And
Good
honestly,
chin.
I do love Thanos, especially Infinity War being his movie.
In the movies, he was great. Yeah,
but like in this, I think Jonathan Majors being himself and not a CG iteration of Kang really helps the performance because he is just he's got a very expressive face. Like if you've seen him in anything, you know. So that really helps like drive.
Well, we got to see him as
your
King
belief
in Loki.
in his motivations, you know.
We got to see him.
A different
True,
version
that's
of
true.
him.
Yeah.
So we got to see a little preview of it. So anyone who saw
And
that,
that
was like, this
that
guy.
episode was so gripping. Like
And
just
that-
from
and
him talking.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying.
Character is a polar, like it's completely different than this. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not just saying obviously they're different characters, but like the way that he portrays them, there's like nothing similar about them at all.
In Loki, he's more like Zen, and he's just like, here's how it is because I've seen it all.
And
So
a little
here's how it
goofy,
is.
right? Like a little goofy.
In
And a
Quantumania, yes, and in Quantumania, he's definitely yes, there's some eccentricities and stuff, but he's a man on a mission, and he's very vindictive and very much like vengeful. Like he's very violent, and they sell the hell out of that. And they like I'm saying, the first hour is most of everybody in the quantum realm going, you got to be careful with that guy. Like I mean, he knows you're here, and he's trouble. Like he's like they build him up, and then when he shows up, it feels like earned. Like the energy in the room just changed. Basically,
The only other thing I want to ask is one of the weaknesses, in my opinion, of the MCU as it is right now is not only the confusion with multiverse, but I'm over that. I understand that's where they're going, and I just got to buy into it and just try to understand it and follow along and have fun. So that I do think the confusion introduced there with there's an absolute version like that bothers me, but I've already that's fine. I've already expressed that. Mm-hmm. So knowing that that's already part of this, the other thing is it feels like most of the heroes from the first several phases are either already gone or being phased out, or they just aren't that impressive, prominent, lovable like they used to be. Now maybe I'm missing it. Maybe Ant-Man really stands out in this, but you haven't said anything about Ant-Man. I thought that Thor
was he in the movie?
I thought that in Thor: Love and Thunder, he took a big step back as being someone that I thought was someone that like I actually thought less of him by the end of that one. I was like,
even though me too by the end. I'm like,
and I don't think it's not because the movie was bad. It's like what they did with his character. I was like, what are you guys doing with Thor?
Is he relearning lessons he's already learned?
So that's I feel like a lot of the MCU is struggling with what to do with these lead characters that all culminated in this huge end game moment. Now what do we do with them? In a lot of cases they're trying to find women to hand the torch off to. I get that. It's totally fine. Do that. Change it from men cinematic universe. Make it the WCU. It's fine.
MCU.
I'm joking. Sometimes passing the mantle can be really cool and effective.
Mantle.
I was gonna say the
what you mean, the woman tool?
I actually didn't mean that, but that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a different gender.
I'm just wondering.
Hold on there.
Ant-Man here does that continue the pattern of like this movie's named this, but it's not his movie?
Actually, you know what? I will compliment the writing and Paul Rudd's commitment to being more serious in this movie when he needs to be. Because there's not any moments where the villain is being serious in front of him and he's going, your shoe's untied. It's really fun. Like he's not making jokes to the villain. He recognizes the threat and respects it.
Sure.
So I mean, I actually appreciated that element of it.
Yeah.
But even so, like the central story is like the Ant family, for lack of a better descriptor, is separated and they need to reunite, right? To try and fight this evil together.
Right.
I was not invested in their journey at all. Like I didn't care that they were separated. Like I didn't care. Like it was just something about the fact that we really haven't seen them as a family unit at all. Like they spent 2 movies bickering at each other, and we're expected to invest in their separation. I don't.
They introduce a lot of new like characters that I'm just like, I don't care about any of these people. Like some are kind of fun and some are kind of
there's a couple
like, interesting to look at.
I really like,
but and there's a couple of line deliveries that are good, but I'm just like, I'm not emotional. Like all of you can die, and I'm not
too
going to
much characters, right? Like too many beats.
There are, but the good thing is those characters are going to stay in the quantum realm. We're never going to see them again.
So and you guys are kind of answering my question. It doesn't sound like this movie necessarily makes you really want to find out, like, what does Ant-Man do next? I can't wait to find out next about Ant-Man.
Sorry, man. Go ahead.
I haven't had a chance to get to that yet, but I actually do like where Ant-Man landed at, like in this movie. Like after Endgame, like he started writing a book, which you hear about, like in not She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and he does a podcast and all this stuff, and it's about him kind of like soaking up like his limelight of being a hero. He likes to use that a lot, like save the world, guys, so he's still kind of like, kind of got like some quips to him or whatever, but like when he's been laxed for years, you know what I mean? For however long it's been since Endgame, and hasn't really been doing anything. He doesn't go on like Avengers patrols anymore or anything like that.
No,
so it's like
he's not the local hero anymore.
So like he's off doing book readings and doing interviews and just kind of being a famous person who saved the world one time. And like that's something that Scott would do, you know what I mean? And then
that's true.
When duty calls or whatever, like he heroes up pretty quick, and it's about him. Like when a good theme of this movie is like once a hero always a hero type of thing, like he snaps to and knows what he needs to do, even though the odds are huge. I mean, this is our next big bad, and like this is a guy who talks to ants. Like that's like that's like a superpower, so it's like. And the movie kind of addresses that and stuff like that as well. But
directly, very directly.
Yeah. It's interesting, that they gave him such a big adversary to fight because by the end of the movie, even though he doesn't have a lot of screen time and maybe there's not a lot like a huge journey for him, I take him seriously as a useful hero. You know what I mean in this universe.
What's interesting about the script to me is inconsistent because the core of the movie is supposed to be Scott Lang and his daughter Cassie's dynamic and how his heroic efforts are what inspired her to be stubbornly heroic, even in situations where she would lose. Right? She's being way too scrappy for her own good and like standing up for the little guy. And Scott, like, it's because of Scott that she's like that. But the movie has no interest in exploring that. It's just
which is weird. Like that's actually a pretty interesting theme to explore.
Right.
Like I don't feel any different about them being a father or a daughter at all by the end of this movie. I'm like they're related, I guess.
That's why it was weird that you guys said it's 2. I was like, it's only 2 hours. Like I feel like this could have been considering this is an introduction.
It felt like it flew by. It really did.
I feel like it could have used some extra time because it's like they're introducing the next big bad, and this is supposed to be something that's like Kyle said, like pushing the whole thing forward. Finally, like what we've been waiting for.
I really liked the first 2 Ant-Man movies because I really liked Paul Rudd.
I found those funnier than this one. I think the jokes landed for me more. But like, as Jeff and I were talking a little more, I was like, yeah, I did find a little more of it funny than maybe I was thinking originally. There's still a lot of jokes that like. I don't remember there being this many jokes that I rolled my eyes at. Like in the other 2 movies. It's
because we're now hyper aware of how the MCU writers write their jokes, and so when they do like when they do a joke that's like, "Where are the controls of the ship?" Those are the controls, and it's like 2 gross arms or whatever. Oh, that's where you roll your eyes, and you're like, "This is the TikTok shit that."
It doesn't explain anything.
This is the exact
thing. I still don't know how to fly this thing. Like you telling me, like and like that you see stuff like this all the time in the MCU or this type of humor.
What Derek was saying too, like. the reason I liked those movies is because I think it was Scott Lang was the centerpiece, and he stayed there. With Wasp, they did try to make her a little bit more like sharing the spotlight, but I still thought it was still his story.
She is the highest degree of afterthought in this movie.
Ooh. But she shares the namesake of the movie. It's the title. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Quantumania.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and
I was just gonna say, like,
I forget she's in this movie, to be honest.
Yes, and there's a moment at the end where like it's supposed to be like this powerful moment involving her, and I'm like, where the hell have you been? Like,
why did you cut your hair like that?
Yeah, why does your hair look like that? Yeah. You don't always have to be comic accurate. You know what I mean? Sometimes things just look better on the page. So.
I agree with that. Yeah.
The stakes that you mentioned, Tim, where it's the multiverse, so therefore everybody feels more expendable, but also nothing matters. Like, that's gonna rub people the wrong way the entire journey, all the way through this multiverse saga, and I totally get it. Because it's like, well, if we kill that guy off, we can just bring him back as a variant. Like,
they picked the most comic booky arc to go to next, which I thought was weird, and like,
this feels like it should be the phase after.
Yeah, right. Like, we're kind of out. I think the Skrull War would have been and X-Men would have been a way better idea to go to next. Absolutely. And then you take a big swing and do a universe reset.
And that's all mixed up into all this, right? Like the Skrull things are all mixed up into this. Like,
the problem is we just talked about Last of Us. We've been talking about Last of Us every week. We will continue to as that show goes on. We're loving it. One of the things that does is it doesn't ask you to go with them to some crazy place. It walks you through it, and then it takes you there little with awesome character development, brilliant writing, and it just takes you step by step. Even as someone who's played the game, but I think even for non-gamers, they're going with they're taking them in a very smart way. I feel like for all of its flaws, the first several phases of MCU did that in a lot of ways. It didn't ask us too much. It took us to these little places, and I just think this step. Listen, it was a bold choice. Like, I'm not saying like I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. Like, that's a tough story to tell. All this multiverse stuff. That's not easy to do. So don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting
everything
there's a better way to
once
do
did
it
in one movie somehow, and these guys.
And it's never going to be as coherent or good.
You're right.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying, like, they're asking a lot of us, the viewer, even folks like myself, who I'm not a mega comics fan by any stretch. I like these characters a lot, though. You're asking a lot of me to go along on this ride with the multiverse stuff, like what you just described, Jeff. Where like, well, let's kind of remove the stakes, but also confuse you to the max because there's still stakes,
right?
But there's not stakes, but there's lots of stakes. So like, I don't know. I'm struggling with it a little bit, and my interest level, like
my entire life, like multiverse crap. So
my interest level, and I don't
out when I see that.
I don't want my interest level to drop. I don't. I love these big movies, but like as they come out, my motivation to make time and effort to go to a theater to see it has just plummeted compared to previous phases, and I'm actually kind of sad about that.
See, I feel
like Guardians will get people back.
I'm not trying to criticize it and say it's bad. I'm just saying that's for me.
Guardians looks.
I'm gonna go see them all. I enjoy them for what they are, but I'm not as invested as I was before. But
I still have a fantastic time going to see these, but like it feels like more of a chore to go to the theater, and that's a theater thing.
Kyle and I both said in that part of
every
chat,
time,
like, hey, I just want to stay home and game, man. Like
I don't want to go through the hustle and bustle going out there and then dealing with assholes in the crowd, and also like I'm not saying like we're all experiencing hardcore Marvel fatigue, but like it's there.
People are aware of it. At least people in the industry that write reviews are
and even me, who's like I'm gonna sign up to see every movie. I still have fun with them. Like if they're good popcorn flicks, or why I go to the movie. But like it should feel less like a chore to me also.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm just waiting for that big. I mean, we weren't talking like this when Spider-Man came out. You know what I mean? That was just like a year ago. So, like we're not a lot of time has passed where we're like, well, guys, I've been checked out of Marvel for so long. None of us have. We were just in love with the movie a year ago. So, like that's gonna come back around. That feeling. Maybe it is Guardians. I don't know. Maybe James Gunn's checked out that movie. I don't really know.
I think the issue is the shows. To be honest.
The shows are actually better than the movies now.
Yeah, but not a lot of people think that way. And
what are you gonna say, Dan?
Like you and I
think some of the shows,
Well, like these movies, because I was gonna say, like when we get to the what have you been playing, whatever. Like I watched She-Hulk finally. I watched Wakanda Forever, and it's like and now there's been some time that has passed as opposed to again watching it week to week and everybody like being negative about this, negative about that. And it's like I actually liked both of those things. And I don't feel fatigued on it at all, but it's like I think
You're enjoying it on your own terms, yeah.
I think the shows are just they're throwing, like, for example, with Moon Knight. So Moon Knight is sick. Like I like the way Moon Knight looks, and I liked that show, and I think he's a cool character. But like, is he even going to be part of the Avengers? Like, I don't think he is, right?
I mean, he's never been part of the Avengers.
Way too early to tell.
So it's like,
but like, yeah, I don't even think they know if there's going to be. I think there's been murmurs recently, like we were talking about doing maybe something possibly, and I'm like, that's not a.
So
for someone with such a
think
strict plan, like when you start saying maybes and possiblies, it's like it doesn't feel like it's fitting into anything.
I think they're building towards Midnight Suns specifically, who will eventually unite with Avengers. But like the way that they're doing Blade, Moon Knight, all that stuff, all the magic stuff, like I'm like, oh, Midnight Suns.
The main thing that I'm trying to say is like those first two phases leading into phase 3, where there was like the big Endgame thing. It's like it was all movies, right? We didn't have shows, so they were focusing on these big movies, these big ideas, and it was like a smaller amount of main characters that we were working with, but they all pertained to Avengers and that big thing going against Thanos. But now we're dealing with again, for example, with Moon Knight. Moon Knight has nothing to do with like the big picture. He's still interesting, and it is interesting, but it's like, this is a company that needs to have money to do these things, and they need to have the writers to write the things. And I don't know. I think they're just maybe spreading themselves too thin.
You're saying it's getting more chaotic.
They addressed
that. More chaotic because they're spreading themselves too thin. Yeah, exactly.
They said that they're going to start making less shows because like the reception has not been.
They originally were like, hey man, 2023 TV shows, we're going to have like 5 come out, and now they're like, okay, we're going to have like 2. Like
it's going to be Loki and something else. Yeah.
Yeah, because they got roasted rightfully for the way they treat visual effects artists and stuff, and the way they lowball them to the point where they can't take any other offers, like, so like I think they saw that and how the press and everybody else reacted to that news, and they were like, okay, well, let's give the visual effects artists room to work and focus on the movies that are going to come out this year no matter what. I think the Marvels got pushed back, but they're all going to come out, and the shows will just scale back on that. Like, they're just working way too much.
Yeah. It's just they're spreading themselves.
Well, I agree with Dan. I think it's getting a little too chaotic, but I also think it's what Kyle was saying about. I don't think anybody. I'm not talking about anybody here. I don't think any of us are jaded to the point where like, fuck this stuff's stupid. No. Right. We hate Marvel. I like Marvel. I like what they're doing overall. No, I don't watch all their shows. I think I watch all their movies, but I just think there's too much going on, that it is more chaotic because it is so successful, that we do know these are businesses. So when they have something successful, their goal is to then just keep building
all the way in. Yeah, lean all the way in.
But that's actually, in my opinion, and you can look at almost any medium and you'll see it plays out truthfully. When you do that, you actually end up destroying what made it so amazing in the first place. So I think and maybe they're doing that now, and what Jeff was talking about, maybe they're seeing it, they're seeing the fatigue, they're seeing people starting to bash Marvel and all that stuff instead of praise them. Maybe the smart move is, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's back off a little bit, and then let's just start zeroing in on an actual story with characters that people care about, and kind of bring that back. I think if they do that, they'll be okay. But overall, I enjoy their stuff, and I still, even though like we were talking about this previous phase, it didn't go anywhere. And none of the movies, as far as I can remember, really stuck out as being amazing for me personally. But I didn't leave one of them, and I think I saw all of them in the theater going, I didn't like that movie. That was trash. I still enjoy every single one of them. So I expect that I will enjoy this one when I go see it on Monday as well. I still have fun with them. I just think they're getting a little too chaotic where I don't care about them as much as I used to.
Yeah, Liam Neeson said something like that you literally just said, Derek, where he's like, I won't be in another Star Wars ever again because the magic's gone. Y'all just make too much of it. There's no magic anymore, so I get nothing out of it, so I'm not doing them anymore. Yeah. And like just breaks a lot of fans' hearts or whatever. But he's right, like just what you were saying, when you have too much of something, it ends up destroying that thing or whatever. And while you'll never hear me go, you need to pump the brakes on Star Wars. Like there's always going to be truth to that statement, the pressure in the faucet's going to lessen if the faucet's on all the time, So, That's just a reality of dealing with these like huge franchises.
But I think they're becoming more aware of it.
And even though I like this movie, I didn't walk out of it going, "Oh my god, you guys, this is so great!" Like even I was like, the movie's fine. I had a good time with it.
I actually ended up. I think even though we rated it the same, I think I liked it more than Kyle because I put it above the other Ant-Man movies. Like not in terms of it being a good Ant-Man movie. Like it's not a better Ant-Man movie. It's just I felt like it was a better movie than the other two.
Okay.
Overall. I don't know. It's really hard to.
If it doesn't have Michael Pena smiling awkwardly, then I don't want it.
It doesn't.
None of those guys are in it.
I really missed that.
I love that guy.
That ragtag group and they tried to do some of that with some of the rebels that were in the quantum realm. But they didn't really interact with the Ant family like at all. Like they just kind of had one interaction,
right? Like leave Ti.
I don't need Ti.
Yeah, Ti can stay away. But
actually, the guy who plays Kurt, David Desmalchian, he played the Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad. But he played Kurt in Ant-Man 1 and 2. He voices a different character in this movie.
Oh, does he? Okay.
He's the jelly guy. The guy.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I thought he was really funny.
Yeah.
He tickled me.
Him
and the
like,
mind reader. There's a guy who's a mind reader.
I like the mind reader guy. He's funny.
Played by Chidi from The Good Place, and he is so funny in the movie.
Oh, Chidi.
Yeah.
That guy you just talked about, and Michael Keaton. They're the ones going across Marvel and DC. Like they're getting a little bit on both sides, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's
James Gunn.
James
Gunn loves
those two guys.
Yeah.
Just kidding. All right. Well, listen. It sounds like it is definitely a worthwhile theater visit, especially if you're a Marvel fan. It is one, just like the rest of them, that I'm kind of like what Dan was saying. I'm in no rush to go see it, but I keep up with all of them. Like I've pretty much caught up on most Marvel stuff, minus maybe a handful of shows, just because the shows don't do it for me like I thought they would. Like they don't hook me. I'll watch an episode or two, and if I'm not that into it, then I'm good for right now. But anyway,
yeah,
I've watched
you
gotta
treat your time right, man. So
exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. But I've watched all the movies, and none of them have I even watching them at home on my own. I'm not going like this is bad ever. I don't think I've said that about even with Eternals that I didn't love it. But I don't think that was a bad movie. It just I feel like they squandered
there
an
were some
opportunity.
highlights.
It was like
I like this movie better in Eternals for sure.
There was some great X-Men type action in Eternals that made me go,
that's true.
whoa, where was this?
Eternals had some moments. Like there have been some bad comic book movies, and I don't think any of the recent Marvel movies fall in that category. So I just want to make that clear. Like I don't dislike.
I still have Iron Man 2 and Incredible Hulk at the very very bottom. Like I just don't like those movies. So
yeah. If you count the X-Men movies, I still think X-Men Last Stand is one of the worst. But
I mean, there's soon going to be
there is
canon,
a weird amount of people, like it's a small group that are like, that movie's really good, and I'm like,
no, it's not.
Dude, Brett Ratner, come on.
It absolutely is not
movie,
good.
There is no way that movie is worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine, though. There's on no planet.
To
me,
I mean,
is that movie worse than X-Men Origins?
That one,
really
bad. And X-Men Origins, but also X-Men Apocalypse was pretty awful.
Oh man, that movie is the most mid movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You took the greatest comic book arc ever.
Yeah.
It's the best one.
And they ruined it. They wrecked it.
Ruined it.
Neutered it.
Which is too bad because
remember when
First
he
Class
touched the TV and said learning.
Yeah, First Class was really
First Class was really good, and Days of Future Past I thought was a really fun movie. Like I liked both of those.
Fun movie, yeah.
But man,
Oscar Isaac was Apocalypse as well, by the way. And
and when you cast somebody like that, man, that should have been.
He's the best, but that
a home run.
The worst.
All right. Well, let's wrap up Marvel talk here. This has been fun though. I like talking Marvel stuff too because Marvel's one of our favorite.
It's interesting, man. It's
I'll do a super fast forward through just some headlines if you guys have any reactions to some of these, but nothing major. If you've been waiting, like most people have, with bated breath for Valheim to hit consoles, it's hitting Xbox One and Series X and S on March 14th in their early preview on Game Pass. So you can play it.
That's amazing.
So it's pretty cool. Saudi Arabia is going to own Nintendo next week because they keep upping their I think it's been like every day they go up 1%. It's weird. They went from like 5% to 6%, and the next day it was 7. The next day it was 8. So it's like someone stop them. Someone
stop. Hostile takeover? What's happening?
Saudi Arabia is increasing its stake in that. And by the way, it's like their governmental investment firm or whatever.
Yeah, they're like one of the only countries that operate that way, where it's like they literally invest in.
They have so much money.
Multiple things. Like you can actually Google it, what they're invested in, and like it's Everything you use, they're invested in. I promise.
They just pay with oil cans. So.
Pretty much.
Oil cans.
Which, by the way, The Kingdom, still excellent film. Love that movie.
It's good stuff.
It's a great movie, yeah. Love that movie.
They go to dinner with like the prince, and he's got just a hawk at the table for some reason. Just a hawk.
Yeah,
That's badass.
My kind of part.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
badass.
I just thought this was cool, and this could be a whole conversation. Maybe we talk about it in the future. But there's an early draft of the God of War Ragnarok story that was going to be a different approach for his story, and this isn't really spoilers because I'll try not to say like what his fate is actually in the real canon of the game. But in this version, they were going to have a big battle with him and Thor right at the beginning, which happens at the beginning. He was going to die. Then they were going to do a time jump where Atreus is now 20 years older and he pulls Kratos out of hell in like a series of missions and story elements where he goes to get his dad back.
That sounds
sick. They were like, but that didn't work out. We don't want to do it. I'm going like, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool.
They didn't want to repeat the hell thing, though. They didn't want to repeat
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Last of Us just did that.
Kratos,
too, so
Kratos
maybe not the health part.
Kratos has already been killed and gone to hell a couple times. So
yeah. But
sure,
that
would have been
repeating
a story.
Yeah.
Kyle, not wrong. That would have been sick. Yeah.
That would have been
pretty cool. Yeah.
What
What we got was great though.
What we got was excellent.
Definitely.
But I thought that was interesting. Like they even opened up that kind of a window into their process of like, hey, the narrative director pitched that idea to the game director, and they really talked it through, and eventually were like, we can't revisit that Kratos experience. He's already done that, and they had some other ideas. So anyway,
totally fair. Yeah,
that's fair.
Legend of Dragoon and Wild Arms 2, some classics from PlayStation 1 era, are on PS Plus.
Effing
they're so classic. Nobody talks about.
There is no.
Legend of Dragoon is one of the most classic RPGs of all time.
There is no hold on. There is no reason. There is no reason at all that Legend of Dragoon was not day and date when that whole new thing. They literally own the rights to that game. It is a first-party JRPG.
They just didn't want to.
But the whole property of that game is nebulous. Why was there never a sequel? Why have they never remastered before? Why have they never done anything with that game despite it being so beloved?
Kyle, I don't know. There's been the rumor for years that Blue Point, that's one of their games that they've been remaking. That's been years. And I think Metal Gear.
If they ever announce a Legend of
Dragoon
remake, if they announce a Legend of Dragoon remake, Dan's gonna explode.
Lose it.
My pants.
Oh gosh. It's a creamy disaster.
It's extremely. And I will yell volcano while it's happening.
Dead Island 2 is not likely to get delayed, guys. Not only has it gone gold, but they moved up their release date to April 21st.
Hey.
It's a delay forward.
I cannot wait to play the 6 out of 10. I know it's a 6 out of 10.
Oh,
I think this game is going to be garbage, but it's going to have its audience.
I think that's on the wall in their offices. Is just get us a 6 out of 10. Just get us the 6 out of 10.
Like, please just finish this game for the love of God. It switched hands like 5 times.
We can sell it to Derek Teague. We've succeeded. That's all we have to do.
You're sold, so they did it.
Right.
Really smart to get out of that Jedi Survivor window day, the exact same day, without having to be like, we got to delay it again. I mean, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. The push forward always kind of, and I'm not saying this is how I feel, kind of always a vote of confidence too, being like, we're ready, guys, so like, that's kind of nice, I guess, too.
Yeah.
I think this game is going to be a buggy mess, though. But
I was going to say,
for sure.
Their first 2 games are a buggy mess, so they're like, we're confident it's definitely going to be a buggy mess.
It's going to be about there.
They probably said gone gold with a wink. Like, it's gone gold, if you know what we mean.
Yeah.
What was that wink for?
It just works.
CGI glimmer? Like when you wink just now?
That's all I mean.
It just works.
It just works. And then they glitch out.
Yeah. They glitch through the wall. It's just their head goes through the wall. Like, oh, no.
Clipping.
Double Fine released a 22-hour documentary on the making of Psychonauts 2. So they've done this before, actually, where they did some behind the scenes with this one's called Psych Odyssey. It's a 32-part doc series on YouTube. So
it's all for free.
So you can go check that out if you're interested. I love behind the scenes stuff. So that's the kind of thing I'll put on in the background while I'm working and things like that. Like I like that kind of stuff. Hogwarts Legacy is selling like bananas. It's crazy. The only sales numbers that I am aware of are out of Europe and the UK, where they're trying to compare it to an equivalent like open world fantasy game. So Elden Ring is the most recent one. And at least in the UK and Europe, it's outpacing that already. And we know that game was From Software's biggest selling game by a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a mega hit. This is looking like definitely a mega hit, if not more so, which is awesome.
You're right. Those are the only sales figures I've just looked, and I'm like, there's nothing else. UK is really quick on that.
Really surprising.
Yeah, it's 80% higher in its first.
It's a British property. It kind of makes
compared
sense.
compared to Elden Ring's first week. The IP alone is huge, of course, so that makes sense.
No, surprising that we don't have like numbers.
I agree.
I'm not surprised that it's doing better.
NPD will have those first next month probably.
Okay.
But one of the things they said was that it's the biggest launch in Europe outside, other than like FIFA and Call of Duty franchises. Outside of those, it's the biggest one since Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was 5 years ago.
I mean, it's honestly
Rockstar sells some games, guys. That's a huge accolade. Yeah,
big time.
They move units, man.
Yeah, there you go.
So
pretty cool.
This is definitely a game that won't get a sequel.
Well, it's not getting DLC. We know that. At least they're not currently talking about it.
The developer
we didn't make enough money.
Actually, the developer, I think he was like the head guy, the head creative director, was being interviewed by IGN. I think he was at like their fan fest, and he said the reason that they don't have currently they don't have plans for DLC is because they've been so focused on getting the game itself ready for launch in its own state. And they are just continually supporting it at this moment. Like apparently the team is not that big to where they can just do both at the same time. So I think I think they will eventually.
They're gonna be hiring here in the coming months. Yeah.
When
a sequel gets greenlit by investors and they go into full drive, they'll like double their staff. Like this game's making so much money, and like there's gonna be such a huge confidence in this property now, despite all the controversies.
There's just so many things in the game that feel like
moving units.
The parts are already there for certain like Quidditch. The parts are already there for us to be able to play certain things in the game, but they just haven't done it yet. I really do feel like they're going to do something with DLC. I don't know. Yeah, just a gut feeling.
Yep, I think that something will happen with DLC.
Maybe they'll do an expansion. Like maybe this is.
That'd be amazing.
So I was saying in the chat, like a Witcher style expansion, like a big meaty one.
Once they've got this game where it's running smoothly on all platforms, they've supported it, all that.
On Switch too, they got to release that shit.
I don't know how this game's gonna run on that.
They should just cancel that immediately. Just cancel it.
All Switches are on fire that tried to play it.
Yeah. All right. Fire Access has some leadership shakeup, but they also announced a new game. So the two of their main leaders for the last couple decades are heading out. I know they had some disappointing sales with Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is a bummer.
That is a bummer, big time.
They said that they're really confident that it'll have the same legs that all of their other series have had as well. So like XCOM and XCOM 2 like weren't big pops at the beginning, but they sold well over years.
Right.
So like they feel confident in that, but so it still performed way under their expectations.
That's exactly it.
Which is sad. Yeah.
They're saying that these changes aren't connected to that, although the timing's a little weird. But anyway,
timing is a little weird. Yeah.
They're saying these aren't connected to that, but it is. Studio head Steve Martin is heading out, and
Steve, good for him for dabbling in video game development.
Yeah, he's a banjo player and video game head.
Solving murders
was a man of many talents.
And then Jake Solomon was the director of Marvel's Midnight Suns as well as the XCOM franchise. He's leaving. To me, that's the bigger deal.
That's huge. That's a big deal. Yeah, like that whole voice is leaving with him. So
he's been there for 2 decades. That's crazy.
Yeah,
wow.
More than 2 decades. Wow.
Sonic Frontiers is selling like crazy. Even though they said in an investor call that their Metascore was lower than they expected, but they were excited about the user response. So even though critical reviews weren't as high as they wanted in the 60s and 70s, they got great user response.
Picture rain.
They got great user response, and their sales. Although I don't know their sales numbers, but I know that they're just happy with those, which means we're going to get more of that game. I think
is more fun than it definitely we all thought it was.
I'm going to buy it on PC when it's super cheap.
Yeah.
It's definitely a game I want to own.
So, all right, I know we are at
also, Tencent, who owns everything, right? They just said they're scrapping plans to launch their own VR hardware, and I found that interesting because we've all already had the discussion here about how niche VR is, and I feel like we're finally seeing it.
Well, Tencent listens to our podcast, and they took that to heart when we
famous friend of the podcast, Tencent.
Ooh, I don't know if you want that,
Mr. Cent.
He tunes in every week.
I don't understand the obsession with like these big corporations being cool with VR, but like holding back on like handhelds. To me, handhelds have more.
I think handhelds are such a slam dunk right now, after the Switch and Steam Deck
and VR.
Yeah.
I don't get it. In my
I
opinion.
still don't know why Sony didn't follow up the Vita. Like a Sony handheld would be
I'm
amazing
saying,
right
It
now.
sold like
Yeah.
garbage, but like
Where's
it was just
Xbox?
like 3 or 4 years too early. That's it. Like it just
Yeah.
like popped a little too early, and
I think they're
right
trying to
today
make-
it would sell like I think it would sell really well.
I think so
I
too.
think both Sony and Xbox, especially Xbox, were trying to lean too much on. Well, everybody owns a phone already. We'll just have them play on their phone.
Ew.
But there's
In
to
cloud-based
Ew.
gaming, like you.
me, there's nothing like holding your own handheld gaming platform like
Yeah.
the. I wouldn't want a Nintendo
Dedicated,
mobile,
Yeah,
like,
same.
No,
Yeah.
just give me your Switch or give me your Xbox.
That's the
handheld.
shortcut is putting it on the phone. They want to do the shortcut. They don't want to
Yeah.
spend the R&D on creating the hardware
So
and all
much
that.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
They'd rather
True.
spend the money on an xCloud, whatever they're going to call the streaming device, Xbox specifically, whatever they're going
Maybe
to call the
it'll work.
streaming device.
Yeah, maybe it'll work, but clearly
I still don't have
Nintendo
faith in that
has shown
technology.
you that
Yeah.
it
They
really
should probably
works.
fire 10,000 people. That'll help them get it done.
Yeah.
Um,
Whoops.
Got him. Burned him.
all right, let's wrap up. We're at 2.5 hour mark, so we won't go too much longer. But I did want to give a chance if anyone has updated impressions, either on stuff that you didn't get to till now, which is totally legit. If you want to shout something out,
Oh yeah.
or something you've been playing that you just want to say a little more about. So,
Dude,
what do you got?
I on well, not just your recommendation, but the reviews are freaking astounding for Metroid Prime Remastered. So I bit the bullet and bought that. It's not a full price game. It's like I didn't know that, by the way. I thought it would be a little more. It's $40.
Yeah.
And I had $8 in points saved up, so I was like, well, there you go. It's a $35 game. Yeah.
Nice.
It was 32. Well, tax,
Yeah.
So like
Taxes.
I played through the first level, and I think there's like what 12 total or something like that, 9 to 12, something like that.
Well, yeah. Then they kind of Metroid
And they
style.
get
They strip you
longer.
of all your powers, and then you kind of start down. The planet.
Yeah, that's how the first level ends. Yeah. Holy crap, dude! Super. This is my first time playing this game. Period. So.
Yeah, I've never played them either.
Yeah, so like, I was this released as a means to compete with Halo? Is that what the idea was? Not multiplayer,
No,
obviously, but
because
like,
it didn't really control like that, like the way that you're controlling
Outsiders
it now.
thought so. Nintendo never made that claim, or I think even
Yeah.
thought. Like they wanted it to be a 3D Metroid adventure game.
Gotcha.
Because yeah, like the intention and that game is an adventure game, whereas like you're shooting people mostly in Halo, like it's a hallway shooter,
Yeah, you're
so
right.
like
You're right.
the GameCube one, there was a lot of like stop and aim to shoot. Like you weren't like strafing and moving a lot in that
Yep.
game. It was very.
It
wasn't great.
Action.
The Wii version added some much better strafing, moving controls while you shot. Like I remember each phase. Like I played each of them. And
so you're
then
saying
this
the
one,
version that I'm playing is like
the version
best
you're playing
version of
now
this
is
game.
like, hey, they
Yeah.
made it feel more like a first-person shooter while keeping that
Awesome.
adventure feeling. Like,
Yeah.
So that's what Xbox did with their port of GoldenEye. That's
like
awesome.
to me,
I love
this
that.
is a
they
this
just
is a
update. Yeah,
great
exactly.
upgrade.
Yeah.
It feels like a full-on upgrade, and it
It
looks
feels so good. It feels so intuitive. I love the setting and the atmosphere and how the sound effects and the music's a little bit upgraded, but the sound effects are definitely very retro.
good.
It feels like a throwback, even though I feel like I'm looking at a great, like when I play it on my 1080p monitor, it looks awesome.
How about the frames? What are the frames like?
Yeah. How many
I
I
frames
don't
are we
care.
talking
Actually, I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Did you count all of the
6
frames?
frames per second? Is that good enough? No.
Yeah.
That was
It's
awesome.
unplayable. It's unplayable. What? Nintendo released a 30 frames? It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Derek.
What are we on? Windows 95?
Everything you just said, yeah.
Honest question: how can you guys play at 30 frames per second? Also,
I don't
Nintendo.
know. I just feel like it would be impossible, Like no one has ever on
I feel like it'd
Earth
be
ever played a game at 30 frames per second.
I feel like everybody's just maliciously lying.
You know what's funny is I'll go back and I'll play some ROM of like N64's No Mercy, and that's like 3 frames per second as you're, but I still love it. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
Oh man.
You accept its flaws because the nostalgia is strong.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you're
that's
enjoying it.
right.
It definitely has the Metroid, like Kyle said, it's a Metroid adventure game.
It's
So like
it is a Metroid game.
you
so
will
you're
hit
gonna
lots
be
of
poking
walls
around
where
a
you're
lot
like,
of maps,
I
yeah.
guess I got to backtrack and go find a thing to unlike.
Yep.
So if that
Very much
made
so.
you just ticked off during Metroid Dread or whatever, it definitely has those things to it. It's a little easier than Metroid Dread. Plus, it has first-person shooting.
Well, that's
I
the
think
thing. Different
So
perspective.
there's already
right?
an
So-
easy mode too, so I mean that
And there's
helps.
yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm glad you're liking that.
Down.
I bought it too, just haven't started it yet. I have a whole shift tomorrow. I'm working. That I'm gonna get a lot of time into it.
I just played
Nice.
the first area where you drop into the, I just got to
That ship.
the next planet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's you. So you and I played the same amount then. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to try it out. I knew I wasn't going to invest a lot into it because we don't have anything to play yet. So
yeah, there's nothing out.
You know what's cool is
we're
that
all just watching TV.
All these big busts.
Like this game, of course, is considered like a classic of its time, and like it's a masterpiece, all that stuff. I actually enjoyed each subsequent game more personally. Some people like it way more than 2, but then they think 3 was at least a little better than 2. So like I actually think each one got better. I thought 2 built on it in some brilliant ways, and then 3, Corruption, I thought that was a brilliant game.
I never got to play 3, so that really excites me to hear that.
Love it. So I cannot.
I'm curious if.
But you're right. I only ever hear about the first one. Like when people like wax poetic about Metroid Prime, they're like, "Boy, that first game," which I agree with. Like it's one of the all-time greats. 2
was a beautiful GameCube game. I cannot believe it. Like it looked so good. But people talk about 1.
It really blew people away when it came out. You know, and the map system, like everything about it was so revolutionary and everything.
Good.
So
release the other 2 fairly soon. I'm curious if this is being successful, like financially. I get that it's being successful reviews wise. I was just
it's like in the 90s, right? In Metacritic.
Yeah, I'm interested to know that too. I mean, it's on the bestsellers list on the eShop, but like that doesn't mean anything. So
yeah.
True.
I think it at least has the opening wave. We'll see if it sustains and is enough for them to, because Nintendo would have no problem being like,
that no one bought this game and they're never gonna make that 4th one. Right. Like y'all didn't buy it, so we're not making that one.
Yeah, it's
true. Jeez.
It's true. But the good news is Switch sells a lot of consoles and a lot of software. We do know that. So hopefully they sell enough for this one.
So I think we're all also further into Hogwarts, right? I mean, I don't think, Dan, you weren't on the podcast last week. Did you get it? I can't remember.
Not yet. I've been catching up on, I finished a couple other things.
Gotcha.
Watching other things.
Well, I think we're all further in though. I mean, Kyle and I sound like we're a little bit closer to each other story-wise, like because he told me a mission he just finished, and I was like, "Oh, I literally just did that. Oh, that's crazy!" Like I didn't realize Kyle was that close to me. But I'm 35 hours in, and I still feel like I'm nowhere near. I feel like I'm nowhere.
Yeah. I don't see any ending in sight. It's crazy.
The pacing is just so good. Like
I'm hitting that part where I'm like, and not in a negative way, but I'm like, more side missions. Like how many more? And they're also different and interesting and
much so.
Complex in the way that they're written.
Well, we already shared in our chat how a main mission, an early main mission, actually has a very different path of getting there depending on what house that you're in. To getting to this, to how you are introduced to this character, how you go find these missing pages from this book that you have to just little changes in the dialogue and the scenes, the setting.
I went to a tomb. Hufflepuff people go to Azkaban, and then
Gryffindor. We went and met. We had to help nearly headless Nick with this headless hunt, which, by the way, is something that is only referenced in the books. This idea of this headless hunt, like it's not something that I thought we would see here, but there it is. It's right there.
God, I gotta go back through and
play this game again. Oh my God. Another chat, and Rob, who's in our group, was saying that he's like, I was actually surprised how much he loves this game. He was like, this feels like The Witcher for me, with like how much content there is and how much he's enjoying the game and how diverse it is. And
I could see that comparison.
Y'all are gonna make me want to play Witcher with all these.
I would say it's that level of confidence and open world and things to do and making sure that every square inch of everything is like something to do or something to see.
Yeah,
I think there's a same level of confidence there, you know, in terms of their game design.
Does The Witcher 3 also have the world kind of feeling alive whenever you go to like a village with a lot of people there and they're
it's like one of the most alive games I've ever felt, like in terms of villages and stuff.
The only negativity I can think of is that you're gonna see like the same face and voice over and over.
Character models.
That's so European.
I mean, but that's also 2015 that game released. So like that was how you made games. Is you have
there's actually in Harry
Skyrim
Potter
has 3 voice actors in that game. And we all,
sure.
You can definitely tell.
Yeah, they don't even try and throw their voice. It's the same voice.
This might blow your mind a little bit, but there's at least one voice actor. There's one voice actor I stumbled upon on TikTok who was like, "Here's all the characters I voiced in Hogwarts Legacy." And it was just like part 1, and he listed 12 characters that he voiced, and they were all different. They were all so they hired a different class of voice actors for this game to just do a variety of voices, and they all sound totally different from each other.
That's really good voice acting.
It's really amazing. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, so I'm at level. I just got to level 15. So my character's at level 15. I've got the broom. I'm able to explore. I'm unlocking some spells. The teachers keep messaging me with new assignments to go complete. That way I can unlock new optional spells. So yeah, I think I'm treating it I'm purposefully treating it the same way I treated my PC playthrough of Spider-Man, where I'm like, I don't have to get to the end of this game when Jeff and Kyle or someone else does. I'm just gonna finish it when I finish it and just try to enjoy my pacing of it. Because I did that with Spider-Man. I was like, I have to finish it in time for whatever episode we're gonna talk about this. I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna play it at whatever pace. I'm having a lot of fun.
I get that.
It makes it much more relaxing. I can just sit back and sometimes.
So I did God of War, and it was super relaxing. For
to
me.
what Derek was saying with what Rob was calling out, how this feels like The Witcher. Like it allows me. Like last night I played, didn't do any missions. I just explored and was fighting things and finding chests.
That's why it feels like. That's why I said it doesn't feel like I'm anywhere near the end, because I'm just doing that. Like I finally got to the southernmost portion of the map, which is at the bottom, and it's just like it looks like. On the map now for you guys, it just looks like a desert or something. But you have to go through a cave to get there the first time. And then as soon as you're on the other side of the cave, there's a flue flame right there. So you can fast travel to that point.
Yeah.
Forward. But that side of the map is like, I mean, it's pretty dark. Like as soon as you go there, it's like cloudy and shitty. Like it looks like there's a lot of dark wizards hanging out over there and trolls and stuff. But it's all cliffs. It's all the cliffs that Dan loves. And
damn. Wait, all right. Well, I gotta buy this game now.
Magical cliff.
He left just now.
But yeah, basically, as soon as I unlock that side, I'm like, what side stuff do we have here? And I've just been looting and like raiding caves that I find that are not part of a quest, and just.
Well, I wanted to call out too the combat has no right to be as good as it is.
It's so good. That's like one of my favorite parts of this game.
A game based on a popular IP should have really crappy repetitive combat that I don't really care about, but I'll push through because I kind of like the world. That's how a game based on an IP this popular should be, right? But it's the same thing as I experienced with Star Wars with the Fallen Order, where I was like, why is this combat so freaking amazing? Like they really put love and attention into this. That's why I loved it so much. It felt like I was an actual Jedi with a lightsaber, and it felt amazing.
The lightsabers ever.
Finally,
felt, for sure.
It's
Love
respecting the IP,
and this is respecting the IP. And so, like, as
the games media,
like as you upgrade your abilities,
legit form of like obviously it makes them a lot of money, but it's a legit form of art. Let's respect it and let's put out the best version. Let's not just sell it off at the cheapest bid and go, okay, just make us something so we can get a cash grab.
It's always going to be a cash grab, but if you can get fans behind that transaction, to make the game,
this game's so good. I'm not even exaggerating this. I went to church last week, and after church, 4 or 5 of us just stood around going, and none of these people play video games outside of like multiplayer. They just sat there and talked about how far we are in
I love those. I love those water cooler talks, dude.
One of my employees are contacting me like hourly.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way for me. I had somebody walk up to my desk and we literally just sat there and talked about Harry Potter for 30 minutes and didn't do any work. It was awesome.
If you watch the movies and if you read the books, then you know that it's mostly it is about the characters and learning about the world, the lore. It's all very magical, and it pulls you right into the world, of course. So this game does that. But when it comes to the combat specifically, this game is the first time I've seen this Wizarding World version of combat with combos and fast-paced and and taking on mobs like this. This is not what I've experienced at all in any other Harry Potter experience, where it's like at first it was very simple, like, hey, use this color of spell against that color of shield. I'm like, yeah, that seems pretty obvious. But as you start chaining things together and upgrading those spells and taking on huge groups that start to get very challenging, I was like, all right, this is actually really good, deep action RPG combat. Like this is
with
really
a lot
well
of choices
made.
As you get spells. Like it's just the amount of choices you have to tackle a situation just becomes infinite.
And then when you get the unforgivable curses and you start doing it in front of people that are like goodies and stuff, like hearing their reaction is so funny. There was somebody shot a video of them doing, I think, Crucio, the torture curse, in front of a teacher. I think it was the cute teacher, the redhead, the plant teacher. And she was like, oh, you are learning things outside of the curriculum, huh? Like,
that's funny.
I love those spells, by the way. It's so cool. I just got the second one, which is Imperio, and that allows you to control another person. But the control is passive in the game. It's not like you go into somebody else's body and you're suddenly.
No, I think you just kind of make them fight for you for an amount of time.
They basically just start acting as one of your partners in battle. Which is so cool. But again, that's unforgivable because you can't take away somebody's free will. So that's I love the variety in combat. Actually, believe it or not, there are moments where I'll be exploring and doing Merlin trials or whatever, and then I'll be like, I miss combat. I'm gonna go do a mission. It's something I genuinely miss when I'm exploring sometimes.
So I actually didn't know how good the combat was till a couple hours into the game, because all I was doing was just spamming the standard R2 spell, because it would do this 4-hit combo. It would kill pretty much everything. I was like, all right. Then I got to that first spider cave, and those spiders weren't dying with that 4-hit combo. Like, they were getting hurt, but then there was too many, and I actually died. And I'm only playing on normal, and I died to these spiders, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to actually try with this combat here. So I kind of just sat up and focused and paid attention to the combos they had already showed me. Things like pulling them close to you, hitting them with Incendio, then pushing them forward, like doing all the different combos. And all of a sudden, I was doing lots of damage. I was doing the proper block and stupefy.
Yeah.
You know,
lifting a spider, bringing it forward, and burning it.
Yep, that's my go-to.
So good.
Feels good every time.
Like, by the way, spiders are the only ones that when they catch fire.
That's what I'm saying.
They're the only ones that they animated to actually run around and scream when they're on fire, like spiders would. And all the other enemies don't really do that. They just kind of brush it off if they're wizards or goblins or whatever. It's so satisfying.
Also, as a young teenager, I have murdered many humans already. Many goblins.
It's insane.
It's a lot.
I think my characters have killed more people than Nathan Drake has killed people.
Yeah.
Like it
is a very much an uncharted morality system where you're like killing people, but I guess we're cool with it. Also, I do recommend an open world activity I recommend is going and finding ancient magic. You'll eventually start finding the icons for it. Because that increases your ancient magic bar. And then I use a trait on my gear that allows my ancient magic meter to fill quicker. So sometimes I just have 4 attacks banked, and I'm just like destroying enemies.
Is the ancient magic always random? Because I don't see
it is always
random.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. They're random animations.
Maybe on some bosses,
you pull some giant thunderbolt down from the sky, or like
or if it's a troll, they
the spiders, you make them tiny and then step on them, which I thought was awesome. I was like, what? That was cool.
I love the one with trolls where you take their bat and like throw it against their head, and they're like, "Ooh!"
I haven't seen that. Oh, that was at the very beginning in the first town. Right? Yeah.
It is, but that doesn't really change. But yeah, the lightning bolt is so satisfying, and sometimes you just like dissolve them, and I'm like, "What the hell happened?"
I like it when you just pick them up and you slam them on the ground like 67 times. I'm like, that is brutal.
That's more than I meant to do.
This kid's like 14 like I'm
telling you.
That makes sense. I mean, kids with magnifying glasses
game
are
of the year
right?
worthy.
Absolutely.
So
I think this is
especially
such a well-crafted
I'm not
video
saying
game.
it'll win. I'm saying
right. It's
a big year.
Especially with a game that's designed to have 4 distinct playthroughs. Like, there's going to be slight differences, not major ones, is my understanding, but like slight differences in each of the 4 houses that will make gamers want to go back and keep doing it. They knew what they were doing.
I still think the main characters are the same, but
I just love how much people are talking about this game, and it's all positive stuff.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that there's just conversations. Like, we obviously are talking about it in our chat. I have another chat, and then I told you people at church, like, just people are talking about this game, and it's all positive. They're just blown away by how authentic this
That's
game
a much different church conversation about Harry Potter than they had 25 years ago.
I don't know if God approves of it, but
No. That's why you talk in hushed tones. You're like,
I remember it was like, we don't drink, we don't go to strip clubs, and we don't read Harry Potter. It's like, oh, all right.
It's like, okay.
How about 2 out of 3?
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah.
All right, I know we got to wrap this up. Dan, what else are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot negatives. There's an Aloy symptom in the game where she repeats. My character repeats herself a lot. It's like something out of a storybook. Bitch, shut up. Shut up.
Yeah. Every time you arrive
lead back to Hogsmeade.
Yeah.
My character says that every time.
Something about how it's cozy or whatever. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shut the hell up.
There are some repetitive lines there. Dan, anything that you're playing?
All right. So I'll just quick shoot everything. So I'm up to episode 3 on Last of Us. We already discussed that. I really like the differences that they're doing. It's almost kind of like 7 Remake to me, where they're following a general blueprint, but there's some new stuff that they're adding in there to add those kind of different twists and turns, and that's what they're doing with the show against the game. Yeah. There's these different twists and turns that they're doing in the show, but like it still has kind of that general blueprint, which I really like.
I agree. Yeah.
I finally watched this movie. It popped in my head and then it would leave my head. Edge of Tomorrow with.
Oh, is that your first time?
That movie is freaking awesome, dude.
Yes.
Yes.
I haven't
It was
seen
so
that.
good.
Derek,
so
you gotta
good.
watch it.
It's on.
Derek, you have to
HBO
watch
Max,
it.
Derek.
It's
yes.
it's like
man.
one of the most fun sci-fi
HBO,
like
yeah.
action movies in a long time.
Derek,
Yeah.
Oh my
you're gonna
God.
love it, dude. You're gonna love it.
It's-
You gotta
I
watch it.
remember
it's so
you guys,
fun.
Kyle and I talked because that's when we first started podcasting. Was that year?
Okay.
We both had the same experience where neither of us expected anything out of this movie. It looked
Yeah.
so
It looked kind of
generic.
dumb. Yeah.
It looked really dumb. And then when we both got out of it, we were like, I'm gonna be so annoying about this movie. It was so
yeah.
good.
It was such a good time. Yeah.
So fun, and just like watching him repeat everything and the way he's
Yeah.
like learning it, and then he's just like a badass, and it's like it's just so
scene
good.
where he like he's trying to get out of a day, so he just rolls under a truck.
Yes.
And the drill sergeant's reaction to that was
Yeah. Yeah.
It's basically like, let's make a futuristic action version of Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
got
very
it.
much
We got
so.
it.
It's just so good. It's so
Yeah.
fun. It's so fun.
It's
Yeah,
how
and like
Dark Souls games were born.
yes.
there it is right there.
Live, die, repeat.
Yeah, and that's what it was what right? But then was it the other?
No, it was Edge of Tomorrow, and then the marketing changed to Live, Die, Repeat.
Live,
yeah.
Die, Repeat.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's called Live, Die, Repeat. It's titled that in some countries, though. Actually,
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's on the box art now. It says Live, Die, Repeat in big letters, and Edge of Tomorrow is
I
Edge of Tomorrow.
remember that. Yeah.
Like She-Hulk overall, I thought She-Hulk wasn't that bad of a show. I wasn't in any way thinking like, the feminist. I wasn't thinking that at all. None of that stuff bothered me. I thought it was fun. I thought the way it ended was kind of a little like, I don't know if I like that.
It's poor.
I doing there, but like
It was a big swing for sure.
It was
Yeah,
a big
yeah.
swing.
I see
Yeah.
what you're doing, but like this character to me doesn't feel exactly totally all the way Deadpool. So that seemed odd to me.
But in the comic book, she is. But I don't know.
Like
Again, I'm with. Maybe it doesn't fully translate over in a way where it's
Yeah,
as believable
yeah.
as like Deadpool.
okay,
I still think that
In the comic
actress
book,
was
she
so
breaks
good.
she breaks the third wall way more than Deadpool. Even.
Oh, okay. See
Yeah,
that
that's that's her whole thing.
okay. Well, I wasn't like mad or anything. I was just like, I don't know about that, but yeah, overall, I didn't
A
mind
little
it.
too meta for some people. I get it.
It was. I can definitely see that for sure.
Wakanda Forever, I thought was great. I liked how they
man.
kind of tackled right in the beginning, like right in the beginning. They're like, oh, we're just die, and then that happens, and then like just the kind of trauma throughout the movie and the sadness, and it just kind of like more and more keeps layering and layering, and then the whole thing with
More.
Namor, thank you. Was really interesting, and that world was visually really interesting, and kind of like seeing all that down there. And then I watched earlier today, The Menu. I was watching The Menu. That movie is dude, what the fuck?
I think my favorite line from it is
Love
like,
that movie.
you can't do this to me. I went to Harvard. He's like, did you get a full scholarship? Yes. Sorry, you're gonna die.
Yeah, you're gonna die. Yeah.
You said like it's dark humor, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like there are moments that are like funny, and it's like I don't know if they're like trying to be that way on purpose, but it is funny.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
It's
thriller,
very
but yeah, you
dark
feel
satire.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
laughing because there's a
Like-
lot of comedy in it.
Yeah.
like I cackled like the dude who with the chair, and he's trying to break the thing, and she just like, oh, let me get that for you, sir. She just says it so calmly, but it's like at that point you know what's going on, and they know what's going on, and it's just so funny.
I loved the laughs that I was giving to the movie the first time I saw it was to Nicholas Hoult, when his reaction to everything while he's like the craziest shit is happening, and he's just eating his meal like,
eating.
This is great. Did you put like pepper in this? Like he's just
My favorite gag is the birthday gag, where it's like, did one of y'all tell them it's my birthday? And they're like, yeah, and like,
fun like 3 hours ago.
yeah, it would have been funny. Like,
That movie is yeah.
and that's an easy watch on Hulu. That movie is super good.
I think it's on HBO Max too, right?
Yeah, it's on HBO.
It might be on
It's
Hulu
every-
because it's on HBO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I had a feeling there was going to be something about it that wasn't quite like this is just a movie about people going to a restaurant.
You
thing.
thought it was like the Gordon Ramsay story.
Yes, exactly.
There he goes.
Yeah,
And
I was unaware of what I was getting into too when I was watching it.
I
I was
I'm
unaware
so
that it
happy
was.
for you guys because I saw the trailer for the movie like 67 times in front of movies. I'm so happy you guys were able to go in blind because I felt like the trailers were giving away a little too much by the end of it.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't even know it was a thriller. It kept on being pitched to me as just a dark comedy, and like when there were a lot of thriller elements, I was like, oh, I just didn't know.
That's definitely the best way to experience the movie.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then games wise, I played a little bit Hi-Fi Rush on stream. That's really fun. I've only like 4 hours, so I didn't get like a good feel for it. But I like the combat. The visuals are fantastic. Yeah. I would love like a movie of that. And then I started something this Tuesday, Chicken Police.
You just made a game.
That's
up.
the show, everybody.
Cool.
Good job.
So we've had like a bunch of like top tier games come out, and you're playing Chicken Police.
I haven't gotten Hogwarts yet, guys. I'm busy playing.
You don't want me to fire
I have to cross some things off my list.
You don't want me to fire you.
You literally have no power to do anything.
You're fired.
It's real. This is all.
That's the show. He's fired.
Our thumbnails are now like shitty.
What is it? What is
so it has like the crime solving elements of like LA Noire, but it's like the style of the game is
the last game I thought you'd compare it to. Like if I made a list.
You're basically questioning and interrogating people, but it's like a click adventure game. Like
interrogating each other.
But no, it's straight up anthropomorphic characters.
Why is it black and white and like look cool?
Yeah, it's very noir. It's very
a noir. Okay, that makes sense.
The bodies
this makes no sense. Why are they dressed like...
This is the most sense anyone's made all night to me, actually.
So hold on. So the characters, it's funny because it's like literal human actors, right? But then the heads, they're not like drawn or polygonal. It's actual animal heads. But
okay,
like
you lost me. I'm out.
They'll animate like when they squint and they're like mad or like somebody looks like concerned. It's just it's absurd. It's completely absurd. But it's actually,
I don't like that at all.
No, this is a nightmare.
I was backing you up, Dan, but I'm out.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Are you streaming this or are you playing it?
I'm streaming.
The fact that the giraffes.
This is such a good stream game. This has got to be such a good stream game.
6.5 hours long. It's not super long.
This is the type of weird stuff that people like to watch streaming.
Wait, how long is it?
It's like 6.5 hours long.
Oh, I thought you said half an hour, and I was like, oh, well then I'll get it.
And then I finished Dead Space, which is the remake, which is now the definitive version. That game is amazing. They did a fantastic job. I can't wait to. Hopefully, they do the second one. I really hope they do the second one.
They will. There's no way they won't.
Well, I've heard people be like, oh, well, maybe they'll skip all the way to like a sequel. No. Please do the second one. The second one's a great game. Like, it's fantastic.
They'll do both.
And then remake the third one completely. Don't.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Leave the bones buried, make a new one.
But like keep the environment, because I think the snowy environment could definitely still contribute to like a really scary because it'd be like The Thing, right? Like The Thing is like takes place in very
kill the co-op guy, make it a single player experience.
Yeah.
Well, and if you want to keep it co-op, like that person's in there with you then, but like don't have like a weird guy who's following you the entire game if you're playing single player.
Hey, I want a single player spooky game. Once you make it co-op, to me, it's not that spooky. Like that's
so you have to get rid of that game then. You have to make a completely different game, Yeah, except you keep the setting like you're saying, which I agree with.
And then I finished Crisis Core Reunion.
Oh, nice.
I think Zack is a great character, and he's obviously incredibly important to the overall like arching story of 7. Incredibly important, but like that game to me story wise does not hold up. I cannot fucking stand Genesis. That dude is just always talking like he's in a goddamn play, and I'm like, dude, just shut up and just talk like a normal person, you schmuck. Just stop. I can't stand that character. He is so annoying and stupid.
Would it break your heart if all Final Fantasy 16, like everyone talked like that?
It actually would.
I actually hope anything that you don't like comes true in Final Fantasy.
Well, thank you.
Just in life, it's a great thing to wish on somebody,
But I still think it's like, Jeff, if you just don't want to end up playing that game, like maybe just watch a video of at least like what happens towards the end of the game. Because towards the end of that game is the important stuff that connects to the original game, which is going to Nibelheim.
He's still talking about Chicken Police right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll watch the end of Chicken Police.
But yeah, watch some kind of video, Jeff. That way, then when you get to like remake a part 2,
I really do want to see the game through, because the time that I did play it was very enjoyable.
It's only like 14 hours if you're not like doing everything, right?
Super long. It's just again like
no, not compared to 7 remake.
Compared to 7 remake, to me, like the story and even the combat. Like, yeah, the combat feels smoother compared to the PSP experience, but I think 7 Remake is more fun to play, definitely, and the story is just way better. It's just all these like weird extra characters that they throw in there, and because it was a handheld game, it feels like truncated. Like they just don't have a lot of time to breathe with certain like relationships, like with Zack and Aerith, for example. There's just not a lot of like breathing room with that relationship, but then you're supposed to like really care about that, and then when the game ends, like what happens there, and it's just like, I don't know, like I feel like they just didn't spend enough time together to make it feel like authentic, like more authentic. So
back then, like portable games weren't AAA experiences, so so you get that level of writing. Even like Uncharted on the Vita, it's a good game, but like everything about the story and the way that it was told just feels smaller,
But it's just weird stuff too. Like they talk that there's again, like there's Genesis, and there's all the different like, oh well, there was experiments with this and that, and these different cells, and people are deteriorating, and this person looks like this person, and it's like it's just a lot of it is honestly nonsense.
I forgot how much like clone bullshit's like in that story too, because I've been playing it on and off too. Like whenever I'm just kind of bored, I'm like, oh, let me throw that on for an hour, because I know at some point I'll beat it. And I'm like, I forgot how like you're saying kind of dumb this story is.
It's just dumb. It's super dumb. Like Zack, and I feel like Zack deserves better. I think he's a great, endearing character. I think he deserves better.
No, I don't want to spoil Final Fantasy Remake 2, but I think where everyone's going to get some Zack. So
we'll see. We'll see what they're doing with that. Yeah, because we still don't 100% know what's going on there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And then again, I would like to have that conversation, Jeff. Like if you do finish this game or just watch a video and then you see how Crisis Core ends, having that conversation. So
that'd be really fascinating.
I'm done.
I might even be on a Chocobo Central for that discussion. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. We could talk about Chicken Police and stuff.
We already canceled that show. You're fine.
No, I'm back in. If we're talking Chicken Police, sign me up. I'm on such a roller coaster ride with this game.
So if you guys thought that we had a lot of games to talk about this week, next week, thankfully we already got Like a Dragon Ishin talked about some, so we don't have to spend as much time next week introducing what it is, but we can give updated impressions next week on that. But we also have Atomic Heart. If Derek ends up buying VR2, we'll have to talk about Horizon Call the Mountain, which, by the way, is getting great reviews. It's like in the 80s on Metacritic. People are loving Horizon Call the Mountain. We've got Redemption Reapers, which looks like a pretty awesome Fire Emblem-like, if I remember correctly. We've got Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, Octopath Traveler 2.
There's nothing coming out.
So there's a lot next week.
Really
to get.
I may have to take a break on buying some of these, to be honest.
I'll probably be playing Chicken Police.
Yeah.
I'm glad I could sell you guys on Chicken Police.
I just love that those kind of games get made. It's like, someone made this, man.
Who's this for? Oh, streamers to.
Yeah.
It's such nonsense, but it's.
I like how in that picture the chickens are just staring right at the giraffe's neck.
But they legit talk like everything's really serious. Like they call like the chickens the derogatory, the slur for chickens are like pigeons. You call them pigeons.
Oh my gosh!
And like it's kind of racial stuff. It's like racial stuff. Like there's like all these layers to like kind of how the way people talk to each other and treat each other. Because it feels like it's in the 50s, right? Of that era. So
yeah, but those chickens are wearing leather jackets.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is. Hey, listen, thanks for the chat tonight. This has been a really cool episode. Lots of good stuff that we've talked about. Hope you guys enjoyed listening and watching. I'm tired. And but we'll see you guys next week. A lot more games to talk about. I'll probably mainly be playing Hogwarts all week. I'll try to play some Atomic Heart and maybe one other thing, but it's going to be mostly Hogwarts.
I'll play Atomic Heart because it's free.
I'm going to play everything.
Derek will play everything. Can't promise I'll have a shirt next week, though. He's done 2 in a row, so that we can't ask much more.
That one slowly has been coming off.
I noticed the buttons going down.
Every time I look back over, it's more off.
Dude looks like he's in a 90s boy band right now. What is going on?
You don't get your mask next week now. You couldn't act right all episode. You don't get your mask next week.
So true. All right,
Tell me why.
See ya.
Cluck, cluck, brother.